Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Perfect. Yeah. So I'll just put people little bit on mute if there is a background noise.
Yeah.
So just a second. Yeah, I think all of us are mute. Yeah, so if you look at AI, I'll just give you a background of where it started. So it started way back when there was an experiment, done by Daniel Goleman in the Harvard University, where he wanted to see the people who were really contributing to the college. The alumni, people who were giving money to the college. What was their, academic score just for his research. And he saw that many of them were like not so great in their academics. Some of them were do great, but there were also some of them who sometimes even had to take a backlog of tests and sessions and like that. And then he saw that those people who were really good in academics, are they also there contributing? And he saw the percentage of those people was less. And that really made him think that what is the difference between these people who are so immensely successful, who are contributing to the college, versus there are people who were like good academically but maybe average in their other life, and they were surely not as much contributing as these people. And when he saw that, he realized that there is a difference between them, because the people who were not that were really able to manage themselves really very well in terms of how did they manage setbacks, how did they inspire their team, how did they achieve their goal, their resilience. And that is where he kind of also started writing this book called Emotional Intelligence. So it is not a very new topic. It has been there, for a very long time. But in like, I think last decade or so, even the corporates have realized that there's one skill that I think every manager should learn. And hence today, if you go to any corporate and if you look at any any organization's competency dictionary, you will start seeing emotional intelligence as as one of the top competencies for leaders, and that's the background of AI. Daniel Goleman obviously made his work became very popular, and his book must have got sold. I think millions of copies got translated in 32 languages. A very nice book to read, very heavy book though. And you will see a input of Daniel Goleman coming also in this session, along with Richard Boyd's, Annie McKay. All these people have contributed to this field. So we will start with a small exercise, and I'm going to give you these four questions. So either you can write down on a notepad, or if you have downloaded the book, you can also the workbook, e-workbook. You can also type it inside the workbook. So I'll give you about 7 minutes to write these four questions. So the best thing about me. So whatever you can think about yourself, my major area of improvement. So it could be anything. It could be anger. It could be not dealing with certain situation, and that is where in the beginning what I said is that try to bring in as close your problem or as openly you can share with us, so that I can deal with that in the program. And when do you really feel good about? What are those instances when you feel really nice about life? And when do you feel low about life? What are those instances when you feel low about life? Yeah. So these are the four questions. You have got 7 minutes to answer them, and then I will have like two or three people to share. What have you written, and then I'll start processing it. When I start doing that, I will start bringing in the concepts of AI in the context of these questions, and that's how the journey will start for all of us. Yeah. So you can take about 7 minutes to write the question. If you have any personal doubt about this, you can message me on chat. I can answer those. Since we are not in the physical setup, I can move around and see what you guys are writing. But I'm here to help if you have any question on this four questions. So 7 minutes to fill this up.
Yeah, you wish we can volunteer ourselves, right, for these answers.
Yes, 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 yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes,
sure. Okay.
yes, yes, definitely, definitely. So I have this concept of volunteer or voluntold. So if nobody volunteers, I'll call out some people. Yeah. And whoever possible, keep your cameras on so that I can see you in the camera and see how seriously you're writing the answers. Unless somebody is in your room or
Sure, sure. Keep the camera on.
Sure, sure, sure. Thank you so much. Okay, Vivek, thank you. Yeah, you all can also put in once you're done on the chat, so I know how many I've done.
I just have single line statements. So probably I was able to
Yeah,
complete first.
no problem.
Can I go, Yogesh? I'm keen to get a feedback from you and others.
Yes, sure, sure, sure.
Okay, Nandan here.
Yes.
So the best thing about me is my perseverance. I simply don't have the habit about just giving up.
Right. Very nice. So
And
another one quick request to all of you that and I learned that when I was attending a program in Wipro in 2002, the facilitator said that while he has his own content, but it's great to learn from each other also. So when you listen to people and if you feel that Nandan has some very interesting quality that you want to learn, you can write down and maybe Nandan can be connected later and you can talk to them also. It's a good way to capture what all qualities we have in the group also. So Nandan, please go ahead.
so I'm a good daydreamer. The
Okay.
only difference from others is I just when some dream comes, I keep on pursuing.
Hmm.
I just don't give up. It may take years together.
Very nice.
It took me 25 years to say, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
It was just all my 25 years I went on looking for a technical person. So perseverance is one.
Very nice.
And I was also influenced by my boss, who is no more.
Okay.
And so he was saying that, hey, whenever he talks to people who have worked with him and they have come up in life, or they say that, hey, we have done well, it makes me happy. So I also get that feeling that many people who worked with me now are in great positions
Hmm.
in corporate life. I think it just
Hmm.
makes me feel happy.
Very
And I go
nice.
and tell everybody that, hey, these are people who are holding the rank and file. Though
Right,
it's
right.
not got much ice with me today, but I still feel happy that that title is what in corporate life is very important.
Right, 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 right.
Where I feel my area of improvement, I'm also a very restless person.
Hmm.
So I think I've been in roots and shoots, and Vishwa and another colleague of mine, Dattatri, was introduced me to roots and shoots. I'm trying to become more patient with people, so that everybody has their own speed.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to be. I attended that program. Okay, I say, okay, let me do it. But to achieve that, it's a long wait for me to go. Because today I always feel speed is the name of the whole
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
So if they're going slow to my liking, I think I get pretty disappointed.
So Nandan, how is your session so far? It's not getting restless. Okay, no, I think so far.
No, I'm still, I'm saying I'm just learning from you that you're talking a little slowly. So that's when I said, I mean, I have to write quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So Nandan, what happens is that what I will do is I'll introduce you to some neuroscience of how our brain works. So I'll introduce you to a part of the brain called limbic system, prefrontal cortex, and this particular topic is like it's all thinking oriented, and our brain is responsive to our intentional practice, which means that if I intentionally practice certain things and there is a certain view that I carry from the past, is that view the only view that I want to do, which has to be also connected to another part of the brain that actually can help you change the way you look at, yeah. And in the whole process, as we go along, you will see for yourself, oh, because of this possibility this is happening. Maybe let me try this out, and then
I
that
do a lot
just-
of breathing practice.
very nice.
That is slowed down. Okay.
Very
Or now I just tell myself, okay, take another breath. Some yoga practitioner,
Sure, sure,
I also practice yoga. So he told me saying, yeah, I mean,
sure,
just
sure,
keep
sure.
observing your breath.
Okay, very nice.
What really feels good about myself is when I help people. Okay.
Yes.
I actually have landed myself in trouble when I've taken the initiative to help people.
Yes.
They thought that, or they think that probably I've crossed a line. Okay. But still, I think when they have succeeded
Yes.
in their own way,
Yes.
they may tell me or not, it doesn't matter.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that I just gets a good feeling of mine.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I
So,
count this good feeling saying that, okay, have I got about 5, 10 in a month?
yes.
I just keep counting, but I just leave it and then move on again. First month saying that, okay, have I got that good set of feeling? Okay.
Yes. Yes. So, Nandan, I want all of you also to write down these 4 chemicals you might have read in Roots and Shoots, or you might have read in the internet. This called as DOSE, DOSE. So, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Yeah. So it's like you would have seen this. It's moving in the internet for many years actually. So dopamine, and these are all 4 happiness chemicals. Okay. So and in today's session, I'm going to take some promises from all of you. And here's my first promise. How many of you exercise at least 3 times in a week?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah, 7 days.
Those who have not raised their hands and I can't see them on camera, or you have not put that. This is my first promise. If you don't like, also, you have to exercise. Because when you do exercise, which could be any form, it could be cycling, walking, swimming, playing tennis. Yeah, Anand, please. You're on mute. Yeah.
Walking.
No problem. Yeah. So anything you have to do 45 minutes. The reason is that when you go out in the sun, you do physical movement. This one of the happy chemical endorphin will get secreted. And why do we need that? Because these chemicals are very helpful to negate the other chemical, which is cortisol. Okay, cortisol gets generated when you have an argument, you have a stressful escalation at at work, you have a family issue, you have a argument with somebody, you're dealing with something that you're not happy with. The body, so our body is like an autonomous system, which means that based on what happens to the environment that we are in, our body responds. Okay, so the cortisol is a chemical that is getting ready for that threat. Okay, now having cortisol too much in the body is harmful to us, and when we get sick is because of that imbalance between the two. So if you were to say at least exercise, and see, my promises are very simple, right? 3 times in a week. I'm not saying 3 times in a day, practically. So if you do, all the cortisol on Monday can be negated on Tuesday, on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday. You can do 2 times if you like. So that every time, and you can help it, because you will have to go through the situation. You go to deal with your boss, deal with your home. People have their own points of view. So cortisol is going to secret, yeah. But if you do a regular exercise, then you will actually not fall sick, because you're negating that cortisol in a very systematic manner. So even if you don't like, you should. So today, what you do is you go to Amazon and buy all the yoga mat, then Skechers shoes, Puma. That the GDP of India should go up by some percentage tonight. And don't discuss with anybody at home after the session at 1 o'clock. You say, Yogesh was suggesting that I buy Skechers. So now people will tell you, no, that 5,000 is too expensive. We'll go to the sale of 50. No, don't do all that. Buy 25, 30,000 rupees material you should buy by 2 o'clock today. Because what will happen then, that mat, that Skechers shoes will really look at you every day. That boss, you have spent 25,000, now go and run outside. Yeah. Don't discuss with anybody. Yeah. So this is our first promise. Yeah. So Vishu said it's a complimentary session, and now what this expensive session it is turning out to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've completed that, because I bought a cycle the day before yesterday worth 45K.
Lovely,
So that's going
lovely.
to keep staring at me.
Completely. So Vivek, you have to get on to this exercise business, not at least 3 times a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So, and those chemicals are like, as I was saying, these are all happiness chemicals. So endorphins like that, or, what happens is that if I tell, Vishu that, hey, Vishu, thanks for giving this opportunity. You're such a brilliant person helping. Yeah. Suddenly in Vishu's brain, oxytocin, dopamine is getting secreted. And there is one more dopamine, and I'm giving you some instances of how you can create the chemical. So when you appreciate somebody, like, in the afternoon when you have lunch, you appreciate your spouse for that, and don't get worried about suddenly they'll say, what is happening? Why is he appreciating? But do that, because then what will happen is that oxytocin, go and pat her back also, saying that a fantastic job, hug her if you possible, and do all kinds of wild things today to tell that there is a chemical issue that I'm trying to, generate. And when you do a checklist, so for example, if you, like when you finish a project, when you finish something, you feel very nice about it. Why? Dopamine is getting secreted. So when you do exercise, 3 times a week, the moment you complete the 45 minutes routine, the body is actually secreting dopamine, and hence you feel very nice after the exercise. Besides the endorphins that gets coming from the sunlight, or when you go and have a nice cup of coffee in a nice coffee shop, all these are happiness chemicals. So I'm giving you this scientific, reason of why this happens to us, so that you can yourself now start analyzing for yourself. Is my cortisol level going high? Is my happiness chemical going low? And you can take action for yourself. You don't have to ask anybody else. Going for a walk, you don't have to ask anybody. There's nobody. You're not depending on anybody for happiness. You can pat yourself nice for that exercise routine, and you get dopamine secreted. Yeah. So slowly you're delinking your happiness with anybody's dependency. And when you slowly bring in the spiritual angle in EI, you'll start seeing that is what we learn from spiritual discourses. But they're possibly they're not giving us a scientific approach for why we should do that. Here I'm giving you and we are made up like this, meaning these are all research telling you about the chemicals, about the pattern, about the way we would run that. Yeah. So Nandan, thanks for kicking off. I'll just take one more person, and I remember Suhas.
Yeah, correct, right.
Yeah, Anand wanted to say something. Yeah, Anand.
Sure. Yeah, it's okay. Let Suhas start.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe I'll talk about even that walking part a bit later. Yeah, but
Yes.
I have one other experience of that, so I will just talk about that. Okay, so the first thing is about the best thing about me. I always try to give my best, trying to help someone. You know, I always try to do that. Whatever the given chance I have, I'll always try to give my best out of it.
Very
Right,
nice.
whatever it is, it may be a small or a big activity. I'll always try to give my best out of it.
Very nice.
Right?
Very nice.
Yeah. So major area of improvement. Yeah, so somehow I feel I'm lacking, a bit of handling multitasking. Sometimes I feel I am missing few things. I get worried a lot about that, and especially, how to handle, challenging situation, dealing with the people who are harsh, who doesn't respect my thoughts and feelings, and sometimes I become more conscious when I speak in public. I
Yes.
try to be very conscious about how do they feel, how do
Mhm.
am I representing well or not. I become more conscious about that. So that's
Yes,
another.
yes, yeah. So, Suhas, there are two things I would recommend on the first part of multitasking. If you can give me a call sometime, there are two very interesting books you should read.
Okay.
One is a book called Procrastinate on Purpose.
Okay.
Can you imagine the title of the book is Procrastinate, on purpose, meaning you should procrastinate. The other book is called a Deep Work, okay, by
Okay.
Cal Newport. These are
Okay.
two very interesting books to handle multitasking, and there is a part in our brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is like our RAM of our computer or the mobile. So what happens on a mobile if you have too many apps running? The mobile
Mm-hmm.
slows down, right?
Correct. Right.
Yeah. So what happens is with these two books, we have created a very interesting program called the multiplier mindset, which means how can you multiply time for achieving your goals. So if you can remove a lot of things that is in your RAM to a system that will actually remind you to complete the task. And I'm not talking about the to-do list. I'm talking about another approach that maybe we can talk about it later. And
Sure.
once you can read this two book, you'll get a fair idea of how to do that. So what will happen that once you reduce your RAM, you will start essentially be not getting overwhelmed by too many things. Yeah.
Yes.
The second part of feeling little nervous in front of public is a very very common challenge that most of us face, and there are two reasons for that. One is that there is a part in our brain called amygdala, and I'll talk about it as we go along in the journey. The part of that brain has this function of scanning threat. Okay, so when I'm in front of public, the amygdala is getting activated, saying that what people think. So, for example, in the morning, my amygdala was getting little activated that, Roots and Shoes is such an evolved group. I don't know whether I'll be able to lead the session. If people ask me some like Anand Prakash is like a champion in Wipro. If you ask me question, what will I answer? Yeah, these are like amygdala. How do I handle that? I tell you, 300 plus session. What is the big deal? I think Anand is a good guy. His name itself is like Prakash. He will throw Prakash in the class. Vishu is there. He can support me from whatever is required. Yeah. So that amygdala is slowly calming down. Yeah. And I'm saying that I should be all right. So sometimes people say that, can we do one thing? We are 20 of us. Let's go to Apollo and remove that amygdala. So once for all the problem will get solved. So that is actually required for real threat, which means if you're on the road, if some vehicle comes, you have to have a quick response to throw yourself away, but not in situation where the amygdala doesn't understand that. Okay, so amygdala gets activated even for a perceived threat. Okay, which would also mean that if I am having a difference of opinion, so if Suhas and I don't agree, my amygdala can get activated because that view that is different is also a threat for the brain. And that is where a lot of argument starts happening. And
Correct.
the body actually supplies the blood from the brain to the body to fight the threat. Okay.
Yes.
But what happens is when there is less blood in the brain, you become sarcastic. You tell about 5-year-old issue that you had with your spouse that anniversary you did not buy that gift for me. Now that 5-year issue has nothing to do with today, but it is sarcastic. Yeah, it is bringing. So if you bring the blood back by this practice that we'll talk about, you are actually very rational about your conversation. And this is the whole game. So there are three parts of the brain I'm going to talk about: the limbic system, the prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala. If we can manage these three, gradually the same amygdala gets slowed down. It starts understanding you. It starts responding to you. So you're not letting the amygdala get hijack your situation, but you're letting be there to manage that. And as we go along, we'll do that. And on the other part of people being harsh with you, as we go along in the journey today, you will start appreciating where are they coming from. In the sense, like I was in Amritsar and now I am in Hyderabad. I mean, just the way people drive the vehicle, the person who took me from one place to another for the offsite was so different. Like a Hyderabad guy on a road which is hardly, maybe 60 feet, you will never go above 60 kilometers per hour. But in a 30-feet road, they're driving at like 80 kilometers per hour. Can you imagine? Now, you might sound the way, you go to a shopkeeper and you tell him something, the argument can just start happening at any moment. Now, if the same guy who is born and brought up in Hyderabad, even he's a Punjabi guy, possibly besides the genes, he would actually pick up something from the environment. So if I were to empathize with that person that he is not like this just because he's in Amritsar or he's in Ludhiana or he's in Patiala, he is seeing it from the formative age. Now, the good part is human beings don't need to be permanent with that. You can actually slowly, gradually, with practice change. And this is, I'm not talking just a motivational talk here. I'm giving you a scientific base on which you can actually start, like if I were to scan Suhas's brain today, it's called the science of neuroplasticity. And if you were to practice whatever I'm talking about 2 years, and if I scan your brain's shape will change because the brain is responsive to intentional practice. Yeah. So we'll talk about as we go along. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and one other part, just I'll quickly add on amygdala, right? So I've also seen, sometimes when I go for a walk, especially in the morning, and just that's the reason I wanted to talk about that walk. It gets so much of activation has been there, right? When I do a walk, maybe for 45, 30 minutes, all those things start coming, continuously getting bombarded. What should I do? What should I do? All those things keeps coming in, and by end of the walk, I again come back, and then I couldn't concentrate, focus. So that is something happens. That's
Okay.
where
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I'll just quickly wrap up on the other two part. Feel good, yeah. Supporting people when
Yeah.
I'm able to achieve things perfectly. I'm trying to be kind of a perfectionist, right? So that is one. And the last point on why I I feel really low when someone points at me, criticize me, comments. I try to take things personally, right?
Absolutely. So all this, I think I can almost guarantee you, Suhas, that we'll get over this very beautifully. Actually, no problem. Yeah.
So I'm in the right session.
Yeah. I can. I mean, I put my neck on the block that you can try this and you can talk to me in 30 days and tell me that how has it worked for you, not worked for you, and we can have this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Yogesh. I mean, one last thing, is it okay after this session also we can be in touch, because,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I day in and day out I do this only, so it's absolutely
sure,
okay.
sure.
And,
Thanks.
and when people tell me that you're so helpful and all that, I tell them it's not about helpful. It is all about the more I process the situation, the more I become better as a facilitator. But actually, you guys are helping me to get better, because when you tell me certain things, I also look at my own research. I look at what Annie McKay would have told, Antonio Damasio would have told, and then I process it. And then when I see it's working for people, it is a dopamine that you get in your mind or oxytocin in your mind. So it's like a cycle, and when your staff sees that you are actually, always trying, bring that enthusiasm, is all because of that energy. So we have to create, and Roots and Shoots is such nice group that I think which was created that even if you're down and if you open that group, maybe some video will pump you up, So we will go down at times, but we have to start reducing the number of times going down and increase the number of times going up. So that's the effort that you have to start bringing in. I mean, in my view, if you bring your people surrounded with that, I think then there is so much to be done that you have really less time for depression and whatever other thing that can happen. Yeah,
Yogesh, just one comment. So
yeah.
how quickly you have to bring it up? I think it's like mean time to recovery.
Yeah.
in system engineering. It can fail, but if mean time to recovery is very fast, you won't even notice that there is a failure actually.
Very nice. Okay. And the beautiful part, she is that from a spiritual angle, from all the angle, I think it is all there, there available to us.
Absolutely.
It is just that we haven't, and also I feel that spirituality has not taken the positive route as it, because see, if I look at my mom herself, yeah, in my childhood, I would see my mom doing this, this puja for like an hour, and once the puja is done, she'll shout at the maid. So then I said, yeah, puja ka fayda kya hai? In this, what is the point? Yeah. And I got into Sahaj Yoga, and the reason I'm sharing this is that I went to a lot of these spiritual organizations, and I'm not naming that because some of you might have a good experience, but I didn't have that good experience because the guy who was leading the discourse, was, smoking after the session, for example, or he was shouting at the driver that why the vehicle in the post did not come on time. So then what is the point you teaching inside that, So for us in our formative age, we didn't see many leaders who are doing puja and who are actually practicing that. Hence we lost our thing, but actually speaking, if we can make it like the way I'm sharing with you, that there is logic behind why I'm helping, because it's a circle. And at a very, very, high level, I think all of us are same only, in the sense we are all like same structure, same universe. So if you go that level, then I think you don't even mind helping anybody else. Yeah. Anand, please.
Yeah. So I think there was a comment on the chat box. Also, the second book, if you can rename that name, we could.
It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport. Deep Work by Cal Newport.
Deep Work.
Yeah. Ananta, please. I can see your hands raised actually. That's a very good idea. I think hand raising will tell me that who wants to ask the question. Yeah.
No, this is a question on something that you said about the 3 parts of the brain. I don't know. I think I might have bugged Vishu with this question also once before. So this is you talked about this prefrontal neocortex, limbic system, and amygdala, right? Okay.
Yes.
They are different parts of the brain. So I always have wondered, those that are the parts of the brain that are actually managing my thoughts, actions, behavior, everything.
Yes.
But what do I use to manage them?
Yes. So, Anand, what happens is that, as you start knowing about it, and as you start in some form create the gap between 2 thoughts, you have an opportunity to, finally take a call, which direction that you want to go. If we don't do that, then we are operating only with limbic system. And I'll talk about that as we go along. So limbic system essentially has all our experiences of the past, which is stored, and we respond based on those experiences. When I connect with prefrontal cortex, which is a decision-making part of the brain, you can make a choice which way you want to go. So, for example, if Ananta says me that yoga, this session is rubbish here, I don't agree with. You didn't talk about the brain thing. And how do I process that? 2 ways to go about it. One is that I don't know, Anant, why is he cribbing about this thing? Or other is that maybe there could be a valid reason why Anant is doing. And that's a choice that we start making as we start creating that gap. And the more and more I use the connection between the limbic with the prefrontal cortex, I start storing my limbic with a new experience. So the people who essentially are resilient, who may not have gone through such program, but they're very natural at that. But the beauty of this whole program is that we all can actually start rewiring our current approach, meaning how much do I operate only with limbic system? How much do I connect the prefrontal and limbic system? And once you've got that, then nobody can take charge of your life, because you have taken charge of your life. You're not letting anybody else, interfere with that. In the sense and then slowly what happens is that like I will give you one recent example of, I was in the aircraft and one of the, passengers was like shouting at top of his voice at the air hostess because it was I think Goa Hyderabad flight, and they don't serve, I think, hot or something, some issue was there. And this guy wanted something which was not there, and he was shouting at top of his voice. And I, being a practitioner, I was just thinking, how can I cool this guy down? If I tell him that please cool down, he'll shout at me also. So he was wearing that Reliance, tag. Okay. So in between when he was like shouting, I just asked him, do you work at Reliance? He looked at me and again he wanted to shout, but he had to answer to me also, right? So he said, yes. And then he was going and so I said, Reliance was one of my clients. He looked at me and he wants to go and shout, but he has to also answer me because he can't shout at only my question of Reliance, isn't it? And I was taking that risk that he will shout at me also, that why are you getting into my business, whatever. But I did not talk about the shouting with the arrows at all. I kept talking about my thing and I said, are you based in Hyderabad? Then slowly, I could see that he is getting upset my interference about this shouting. But gradually, I could see that, he started, like cooling it down. And then at some point, I told him that maybe I think the flight is short distance. So by the time they take off and land, it's hardly time to warm up that water, whatever, So maybe what I do is that I take a thermos with me always. And in the Costa Coffee, I tell them, please fill my thermos with hot water without any charge. I have my Girnar chai with me. I make my own tea, just take the cup from them. And he just said, oh, this is a fantastic idea. I should do next time and all that. And I didn't talk anything about LS. And can you imagine when we were getting down, and I almost had the guarantee that this guy will almost tell the aerosol, I'm sorry, I shouted at you. And he did the same thing. Because by that time, his amygdala had got, shut down. And although I don't know what after would have happened, but this was a very beautiful and related to this, a very interesting. In the same week it happened. One of my friends, he was in housewarming party. Okay, and like in our relationship, there is one uncle who is like the party spoiler. For he will come in every ritual and give his direction and all that. Yeah, and I didn't wanted to invite this uncle, but mom was very adamant that you should invite him. So he's very close to me and I know almost all his family. And he said, yaar, ye banda aake fir se pareshan karega. So I said, I mean, there are family members and it's okay, we can manage him. I'll try to see, I'll be with him and all the time. So he came in as always in the same pandal with the puja. This guy is like giving all kinds of direction. Bring this, bring that, all that, yeah. And I was like, I didn't know what to do with this uncle, So I was just watching the Pandit, who was like really sounding like an EI champion, okay, meaning from his look and from his conversation. What he did now, that Pandit, as the puja started, he took this uncle on the side for about 5 minutes. And when the uncle came back, the uncle was completely silent. And he was like putting everything in the puja. So I was like amazed at looking at this real life scenario, how this guy, I do so many year sessions, but this guy in 5 minutes, he handled this guy so beautifully. So after the puja, I went to this Pandit and I said, hey boss, you're awesome. Yeah. He's like, we have been struggling with this uncle to deal with, and how come you handled him so well? So he said, see, this is very usual in almost every Indian family. There is one uncle like this, and I have learned how to handle them. Brother, please tell me. I really want to share in my program also, because this is something I took 3 hours to do. You are doing it in 5 minutes. So what I do usually, I take these people like this on the side and tell them that I see that you are so knowledgeable. You have every instruction that we are hearing for last half an hour. But such knowledgeable people, what we tell them is you should actually silently give the Ashirvad to this new family. And every mantra that you do, because you are like Rishi Muni type in this world, so I'll give you a set of flowers and you have to, with your heart, give the blessing after every mantra that I say for next 30 minutes. That's the best way you can be as a Rishi Muni for that. And I give those flowers to them. In 8 out of 10 cases, this works, he said. Every time there is a mantra, this guy has to take this and put the flower in the whatever puja. So for 30 minutes is quiet. Over, and then after that, let him again shout. So it is the main event is gone without any challenge. So in some form, I did the same puja thing with the Reliance tag. Okay, I diverted his attention with something that we want. Yeah. So if we to learn from this approach, this guy Pandit never would have done EI or anything like that. But you see the same amygdala, prefrontal cortex getting operated so beautifully. Yeah. So when we are at home, when we are in our office, when people are like, if Suhas says that somebody is not respecting, we should have this conversation with those guys. Hey, where are you coming from? Where did this thought come from? And then you start seeing that there is a certain rationale behind why they are saying this. Okay, and if you are into the discovery of finding that where is it coming from, you are never upset with anybody. Because that upsetness is because you are thinking that that word is actually upsetness. So if Ananta says rubbish to me, it is up to me, na. It's a rubbish is a word only, na. What meaning I have put to rubbish is what I have to decide, na. Isn't it? So somewhere in my childhood, my teacher said you are a dumb guy, which means that dumbness means I am worthless. But if I say dumb with D-U-M-B, an English word, I don't put any meaning. So I'm actually living a life without meaning, meaningless. Isn't it? If I'm meaningless, then it is up to me what meaning I can put in. But then when Ananta tells me that your session is rubbish because you have not looked at Antonio Damasio's research, then I say, oh, Anand, then I can later on tell Anand, Arey boss, why are you using the word rubbish in front of everybody? You could have used a word saying that maybe you could look at your research one more time. But Anand says, boss, itna time nahi hai mere paas. I only want quickly to do. Yeah. So the point is, I am always in a discovery mode. Hey, why is this guy saying this? Why is he shouting at somebody? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? I'm not going to upset with anybody. And that's the power you're getting, which means you're not letting your cortisol get increased. You're constantly increasing your endorphin, dopamine. You're giving a new approach to Ananta. So next time you can tell Ananta, I am okay with you because we are so close, but not everybody will like the word rubbish. Is it okay if you can change that? Ananta says, okay, chalo, I'll change it. No problem. Because you have heard Ananta. You have heard a lot of other people have never heard Ananta. They will fight on rubbish only. Why did you say to rubbish to me? So Ananta is saying, boss, I have such a treasure of things to share with you, but you're not listening to me. But I'm listening to rubbish only. Isn't it?
Right,
Okay.
right.
I have one comment for Ananta's question. What controls amygdala or limbic system or neocortex? I think that's a great question. If you spiritually go deeper, you will discover yourself. That is the awareness or consciousness, which is separate from the brain, actually.
Yes.
Of course, in modern science, it's not well understood. They think consciousness comes from the brain.
Yes.
But that's a great question to pursue.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, Ananda, what, in my crossover journey, and I was telling Vishu when we first met that the underlying, philosophy is, to become a better human being first before you become a leader. And these are all, recommendations, suggestions, ideas to get. So in that journey, you're not upset with anybody. Okay, but you're trying to create people, give them a new view without telling them that you're giving a new view. You're not telling somebody that like this guy, I never told this guy who's shouting at her that, why, that she's doing her job, all that he also knows. Yeah. But right now, the amygdala has got activated. He's not in a mode to be rational about it. So how do you give rationality? Bring the blood back to the prefrontal cortex first and then talk rationality. But that journey, and the challenge here is that we also have our own amygdala. Na? When I see somebody with blood, or I am seeing somebody who's got a fracture, do you feel that same in your body also? Like, if you clench your finger in a cupboard, if I talk about lemon after lunch and all, you'll start salivating, right? In the sense, our body is responsive to the environment. Yeah. But if I were to start practicing this, which means that in the context of me also getting upset with the environment, can I hold on to myself? And then let the other person's view be also put on the table. And then gradually make that changes. So the idea is that we should not really give any prescriptive suggestion to anybody. It is just the experience. And once Anand gets that experience from me, or that Reliance guy got the experience, I can tell you that next flight, he will not be as obnoxious because he has experienced that it is not her fault. It is just that 30 minutes air flight, they can't technically have the hot water. And you also given him the solution because he's a diabetic, he needs to eat something, but you give him a solution of thermos and the Girnar chai, which maybe in his own thinking, he might not get the idea because he's spending his energy in actually finding out the fault with Indigo airline, not figuring out what could be the solution for that. And that way, if you see, you can find faults with everybody around us because everybody is coming with their own view of why they are bringing it like this. So Indigo's procedure is because of a technical issue, not because they don't care about you as a passenger. But what am I perceiving about that is they don't care about me as a passenger. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank
Good.
you.
So,
Thanks, Vishu.
So
you
my content is going in a very different direction in terms of the flow that I thought, but
No,
I
no,
think
no.
covering well beautifully actually.
Perfect, fine. It's very good.
Yeah. Anand, you want to say something?
Yeah, so actually I have also listed some things are common which have been spoken. Like the best thing is that actually I'm an initiator. I'm very enthusiastic and also accommodative nature.
Right.
But this leads to the area for improvement also, which has actually improved a bit quite some time, getting restless and having anxiety.
Yes.
And then really feel good. I think the same what I was spoken about myself. Someone when appreciates me and I feel someone got benefited from my advice, so
Yes.
that gives a sense of good feeling.
Yes.
And I feel low in life about whenever I commit a mistake.
Yes.
I just don't accept that. How did I made a mistake? So I feel very low at that
Yes.
point in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And there is very nice book, and I'm going to talk about some of the suggestions called Emotion Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradbury. That's the author name, Travis Bradbury. Emotion Intelligence 2.0. So you can also buy that book. So this book is very new, and we'll talk about that as we go along. If I were to just give you one exercise later for that, as you go in the journey today, just reflect on any of the leaders that you have worked with and how do you relate some of our learning with that leader. So there's an exercise that you can do later in the journey format, and we can talk about it after that when we connect again. So here is the definition of emotion. What I want you all to look at and tell me is that what stands out for you in the definition. So when you look at this emotional intelligence quotient is the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. Emotional intelligence describes abilities distinct from but complementary to academic intelligence. So what stands out for you when you look at this definition?
Yogesh.
Yeah,
Ravi here. So when I read this definition, I recall another definition, or which is like smartly put, okay, about emotional intelligence.
Yes.
That sums up emotional intelligence as it is not being emotional about your intelligence, but being intelligent about your emotions.
Very nice, beautiful. Yes, very nice, very beautiful.
Very good.
Very good, excellent.
I think to me, the point is about knowing your feelings and others' feelings. That's the starting point.
Very nice, super.
For me, I see that the term ourselves repeats the most number of times. So it's about me.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm responsible for the situation that I am in.
Lovely, very nice. Anything else? Yeah. So we can also see the term emotion and feeling used in the definition. So any thoughts on what is emotion and what is feeling? In fact, let me put this screen in front of you saying that what is the difference between emotions and feelings?
I feel a feeling, when it gets energized, it becomes an emotion.
A feeling when it gets energized. Okay.
Either positively or negatively.
Got it.
When
Got
it
it.
gets more power, push, etc., it may
Okay.
become emotion. That's how I'm seeing.
Got it. Got it.
Emotion is an expression of the feeling.
Emotion is an expression of the feeling. Okay. But I think Ravi said that feeling is almost like the other way around. So emotion, you're saying emotion is the expression of the feeling. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think emotions is basically, what we are thinking, the thoughts which come to our mind. Whereas feeling is, see, if the person who was on the flight, Reliance person, he wanted to teach a lesson to the air hostess. Right. See, this is the feeling because he's got irritated in the office or something, he wanted to take a dig and he wanted to express whatever his thoughts are there. And that is the feeling that he had. And at the same time, when your mama came and he started instructing, thinking he is the boss, he is very expressive in feelings. Right. Feeling hurt, feeling jealous. Right, these are all the feelings which are there inside. Thoughts, they come and they kind of go. See, this is what I feel.
Sure. No problem. I think Srivastava, thank you so much.
I have a thought. I think feelings are, it's a bit like, okay, let's say, I think emotions are sort of an interpretation of a feeling. For example, let's say my legs feel like, I feel weak, right? Or my gut, something in my stomach starts turning, right? I mean, those are some feelings, right?
Got it.
That may be interpreted as fear, for example. Right? So feelings, sometimes we use these terms interchangeably.
Right.
If you're looking for a difference, feelings like a sensation in mind.
Right.
So
Well, emotion is an interpretation of that sensation.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe a dumb answer, but the emotions is what we feel. There is, for example, emotions are anger, fear, jealousy. But this emotion we feel, that feel is called the feeling part, and the emotion part is the actual anger, the jealous, all those things.
Right. Lovely. Yeah. So I think SWAS is what I think is the right answer for all this, and I'm going to talk about this in detail for next about 7 to 8 minutes. I'm going to go solo. I'm not going to ask for any questions, but you all have to be absolutely with me and don't make any judgment about what I'm going to talk about. Just try to very carefully listen to this story to drive this whole concept of emotion and feeling. So there are while there are many emotions that we as human beings have, which means that our body first feels the emotion and then we process that into a feeling, which is the manifestation of an emotion is a feeling. And I'm going to talk about that through a very real life story, and then you will be able to relate to this and see for yourself how does this whole concept can come to your understanding very nicely. So while there are many emotions, I'm going to only talk about 4 emotions, which is sad, glad, mad, and scared. And the reason I'm doing this is I want you to slowly start pick this up and not overburden with you for too many things. And these are like our prominent emotions: sad, glad, mad, and scared. Right? So if you look at a child, who is like just 6 months old, and if you play with the child, he'll be glad and he'll be smiling at you. He will respond to you. If he's hungry, he'll become mad. He'll roll on the floor unless you feed him. Yeah. If nobody's around him, he'll also become sad and scared that, where are people around that. Now, if you look at this child in Davangere versus in Hyderabad versus in Amritsar, all the 6 months old child are the same. If you see that, yeah, I mean, right? At that time, they don't have any sword, talwar like Amritsar at that age. Yeah, 6 months, any child in Germany, in London, in India, in Kerala, same. Yeah, so we all are born with this universal. And when we look at the last slide on spirituality, we'll see how this gets connected. So we are born with that. But as we start growing, in our formative age, especially between the age of 6 to 12, is when actually we start processing our emotions and manifest as part of feeling. Okay. So here is this girl called Geeta, who is 8 years old, and she's been chosen to say the poem in the 25th anniversary of their school on 26th January. Okay, so 25th anniversary, 26th January is a function. She is the opening batsman for the event. So the dad took off for like a week to prepare her every day by hearting her poem, and mom got the frock, from the demonetization money that she had saved to get the frock, and the relatives are all invited. So in our schools, right, if you have a family member presenting, then you get the first row, couple of seats for VIP, and a lot of relatives never had sat in the VIP seat. They're very super excited. They got special breakfast, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, and people are all sitting in the front row. And Geeta is super excited also about this poem, and dad is almost on the way to the final event, also preparing by hearting the poem, and they are at the venue. And Geeta is behind the curtain, and the curtain is closed. And as the curtain opens, Geeta sees like 1,000 people in the auditorium. Now suddenly she becomes really nervous. Her amygdala gets activated, and she forgets the first line of the poem. Now, if you have highlighted something and you forget the first line, you don't remember the other poem. And she's looking at mom, and I don't know today's mom, how much do they thrash, but at that time, mom with her eyes tells her that you come home, what will happen, we'll see. And dad also is looking at all the relatives and saying that we spend so much money for the hotel, for their travel, and this girl is not even saying the poem. The more dad looks at her, the more relatives looks at her, the more teachers look at her, she gets all the more nervous. So it's about 7-8 minutes, and everybody looking at the entire hall is looking at her, and she's not able to really recall the poem. And she steps out of the stage and makes a decision on that day. What's that decision? That from today, I will never go on the stage. I will not do any public speaking. Now, fast forward her life to Wipro. She's 26-year old, and she reports into Anand and me, and we are her supervisors. And every time Anand tells Geeta that, hey, Geeta, tomorrow there is this DNV people coming from abroad and you have to make a presentation. Geeta says that tomorrow I have a doctor's appointment, or my mother is sick, or my grandmother passed away. These are the three reasons people give in corporate if they don't want to take up any task. So every time Anand tells, she says, tomorrow I have doctor's appointment, my mom is sick, so one day Anand also tells her that, how many grandmothers you have here? I mean, every time there is one or the other. She says, we are a very large family, so there are many grandmothers, one or the other keeps going actually. Now, what is happening with Geeta is that if you look at this part of the brain, so this is limbic system, and this is rational brain. So when she is getting the emotion, which is sad, glad, mad, scared. So glad will not come, but sad will come. So when she gets the first emotion here, she has two choices that she can make. One is, we call it as left side processing of emotion, and other is called as the right side processing of emotion. When she does left side processing of emotion, she's actually just operating with the limbic system, which is the experience of that 8-year-old where she can't go and speak in the public. But if she does the same thing with right side processing of emotion, she can connect the limbic system with the rational brain and tell Anand, hey Anand, I generally find it difficult to present. So can you get started, and I'll take up like one part of that presentation tomorrow. And I know Yogesh also is part of this, Toastmasters club. I can go and do some presentation there, and I know Srivatsa is from NI, and I will ask him if I can come and talk to the college students. So slowly what I will do is I will develop in next 2 years, I will become a good presenter. So what is she doing is she is connecting the limbic system with the rational brain by doing right side processing of emotions. Now, when she does right side processing of emotions, the body secretes a different chemical versus when she does left side processing of emotion. So left side processing of emotion is like the body generates cortisol. It is like a downward spiral. The body is shutting down. When she does right side processing of emotion, the body is giving a lot of options. It is generating new chemicals. It is like an upward spiral. And as she keeps doing this right side processing, there is a time when she starts recognizing other areas of her life also, not only just presentation, that maybe I am holding on to something which is the past. And as she practices, I was saying that our brain is intentional, is responsive to intentional practice. So the more and more she connects the limbic system with the rational brain, she's able to do right side processing. So I'll take a pause here. You guys can reflect, you can think about this.
So Yogesh, does it mean not giving up the things?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
So the more we say that we'll not give up, that will our right side of the limbic system will get activated.
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
say that?
So we are not talking about the side of the thing. We are just talking about the approach, which is left side processing or right side processing. Right now, we are not even talking about the right brain, left brain. We are simply talking about when my body is getting that emotion. It's a physical chemical on the body, which means that the moment Anand is asking Geeta, "Hey, Geeta, tomorrow there is this delegation coming," the brain is sending certain chemicals to the, and I'll show you the heat map of our body also. So let me show you the heat map of our body. So if you look at the heat map, these are the different places where you actually feel the physical emotion on the body. So when she's having the fear in Anand's conversation, you can see that, so you can see this portion, getting impacted with the emotion. When she's angry that, why does Anand keep only asking me? Yeah? There are so many other people he can ask for presentation. No? Or she is feeling sad that, why am I not able to go in front of present? So if you recognize these 4 emotions on your body and you take a pause and connect with the rational brain, you start creating a different experience, which is the manifestation of the feeling. So here is the definition where emotions have a biological and physical existence. They impact our thinking consciously and unconsciously. They impact our behavior, which is that I am telling lies to Anand that tomorrow is doctor's appointment. They're impacting the behavior. And feelings are expression of our emotions, and our conscious stories built upon previous experience and the current trigger of emotions. So it's a play of what am I feeling on the body and how am I processing them to create the expression of the feeling.
Yogesh, one question.
Yes.
Where does the choice of should I do it or not do it, kind of which is right side processing or left side processing, where does that choice originate from?
So the way we are teaching this in the class is that this whole concept of right side and left side. So what is happening is the moment now any of us, like even Suhas, for example, so when Suhas is feeling a little nervous in front of audience, he will now be able to say that, hey, we talked about left side. Am I doing left side? I am doing right side. So this pattern of thinking slowly is giving you a vehicle to start changing the way the emotions are getting even processed on the body. So today, the emotion of the scaredness in Suhas is very high because right now he just want to get over that situation and wriggle out. But gradually, when he's doing right side processing, in the presence of that emotion, he will have a different processing of the feeling for the same emotion. And the body slowly starts accommodating Suhas. And maybe after the 10th presentation, when Suhas goes on the stage, he still has that emotion on the body, but it's not impacting the presentation. So that's a choice that, and what we want to do now here in this class is that we should look at in our lives, who are those people, which are those situations where I have been trying to be away from that. I have not been trying to handle that. And use this concept of right side processing, left side processing. Also becoming very aware of the body, in the sense, there are some people which even before you meet, right, you have some kind of chemical in your body, like your stomach starts, or you get a neck pain, or you get some, some part of the body tells you that I think the conversation is not going to go well. Yeah, if you're going for a resolution of of an issue in the family, when you're going in the car, your body can actually tell you that actually the chemical. But today, what is happening is we are not conscious about that as much. We know little bit, but we are not conscious about it fully. So we are not preparing ourselves and not letting the body give back the blood to the brain. The brain is supplying the blood to the body to deal with the argument that's going to get started. But for that argument to be done nicely, the brain has to be fully charged with the blood. So you are not letting the body take charge, but you are letting the brain come back to that state. So you're slowly preparing yourself gradually. And those who are good at that have naturally practiced this over a period. Or now we can, and maybe after the tea break, we want to talk about some practices that we can use to do that. Yeah.
Yogesh, can I ask one other question? I mean, can
Yes.
Okay, so whatever you said, right, that argument will not go well. Sometimes we feel that, and my experience in that is sometimes we try to presume or assume things, right?
Yes.
And that is how you're half down in the battle itself.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
if I don't think, and even if that thought comes, I just ignore and try to say that positively, yes, we'll go. I mean, sometimes will that help? Because such thoughts keep coming, and this situation keep happening. And how do we? Maybe a question is, how do you overcome that?
Yeah. So it's a practice was that you have to start from doing it from today itself. In the sense, every those situations, so you're starting to now focus on what could be their reason why they are doing this way. Yeah, rather than you just kind of getting immersed with your thoughts only. So your whole energy is going on figuring out what could be the 5 points that I'm going to talk about, isn't it? Because you're not, otherwise you're like constantly almost decided even before the conversation that I'm going to lose this conversation.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because our brain in general doesn't like change also. So, you want to have stability, you want to not really do too many changes. That is the nature of the brain, because the brain is trying to protect us. Yeah. So in the protection, it is not letting get any other thoughts come into our way, because it feels very nice when it has its own thoughts that are there. But we have to start, really, because that was a threat in one time, like when people were doing hunting and, that was everything was a threat. Only food was the, only ask that we had. But today, I think thoughts are the big ask in the sense how people think each other. Food and shelter is all taken care. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So what you're saying in this example, the emotions that the 8-year girl was filled with, sad, glad, scary,
Yes.
all that the childhood experiences, even after joining Wipro, she carried with her.
Yes.
And there is a time this happens to each one of us.
Yes.
And what we have is we have, different parts of the brain.
Yes.
So by distracting or by preparing the different parts of the brain,
Yes.
we can get over it and not let our emotions affect our feelings and slowly start becoming a different person.
Right.
So is this an afterthought, or is this what you are trying to say for this example and with this?
Completely. You have so beautifully summarized it, actually. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, in your work that you're doing, you can use this content very nicely. You can also now start seeing that, what is the formative age which this could have happened to this person? Yeah, what is their background?
Yes, we get into that, and yes, it is very clear. This is what we take in each and everything, and
Yes, yes,
why this person behaving like this is
yes,
what. Even though there are brothers, sisters, we
yes,
always
yes,
go to the childhood. But this is
yes,
a very good and distracting the mind. I think
yes, yes,
the example that you told about the Reliance person, you
yes,
just
yes,
totally used the Gestalt technique to totally distract him from what he was doing. And
yes, yes,
finally, in the end, he went and apologized. That's all
yes,
the training of the brain. Okay.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes. Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
And the other thing, Srivas, just to close on this is that, see, while I did this to this Reliance guy, but can I learn this for myself also?
Perfect.
So I do it for myself also. I tell Yogesh that, hey, Yogesh, why are you picking on this guy here? Maybe he is in Amritsar right now. He's born up and brought up in Amritsar. He is not from South. And that doesn't mean that I'm labeling anybody. Okay. I'm not saying that Amritsar is bad or Hyderabad is good. Not that. I am just very neutral about it. But if I were in Amritsar, I would also pulled out the sword by now. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? So and I'm not saying that all our childhood experiences are bad. Okay, meaning I learned so much from my dad. Like I used to live in a factory setup where we had 64 flats, and my job was that every Saturday we had this bhajan. Like earlier we didn't have club and all that. So bhajan was the only way to have entertainment or whatever. And my job was to do collection for the prasad. And you know how difficult it is to pull out money in general from people. So my job is go to 64 flats, collect the money, go to the sweet shop, get the prasad. For 30, 35 people will be part of the bhajan and organize the bhajan team. So this week, who is going to sing which bhajan? What is the sequence? Who is the tabla player if he is absent? Who is the... So today I am very good in operations, meaning I am very good in organizing, like the way we organize this with Shulba and all that. Very natural because of that experience. My childhood, my dad gave me that opportunity at that time, so I know how to essentially organize things. So not that all childhood experiences are bad, but now we should start seeing that if I am getting agitated, if I'm not doing certain things, what could be the formative limbic system experience? And can I... and sometimes people ask me this question, that can we erase the limbic system, rewrite that? We can't. It is like permanent there, but you can start putting new experiences on top of that. So once in a while, in general, I'm not getting angry, but maybe there are times because that past thing or that Geeta, although after so many things, she's in general good at presentation, but there will be times where if there is a 500 audience, then again she'll go back to that old formative experience. So the more and more we write new experiences, the old experience don't show up. Yeah. And before we take a tea break, I think the last piece in this whole, before we go for tea break, our mind doesn't stop thinking, in the sense there's some other thought happening all the time. Meaning, uh, so so Anand and me. So Anand gets promoted as senior vice president, and I report into Anand now, and Geeta continues to report to me. Okay, that's the chain that we have, and every Monday Geeta gives me the report on time. Like at 11 o'clock sharp, she will give the report. For 5 years, she gave me the report. And not even a single Monday she missed. Even the week when she had her sister's wedding, she came to office, delivered the report, came back. So one Monday, it's about 12 o'clock and the report has not been given to me. So I go to her desk and say, hey, Gita, where's the report? And I go back to my cabin and don't say anything to Gita, while asking for the report. What kind of thought will come to Gita's mind looking at Yogesh's behavior of just coming asking for the report and not asking anything?
All these years I've been doing it regularly. Now one day I missed. Look at the way he's coming.
So as you know Gita, yeah?
I think it's our own experience.
So exactly that thought comes to her mind, but this is horrible here. I mean, one Monday. So, every day at 1 o'clock we go for lunch together. Yeah. So in mind, Gita's, that's happening that, what is Yogesh, kind of behavior with me. And she doesn't eat well because, you have seen in some movies, right? The hero throws the food when he doesn't, is in a nice mood. So we don't feel like eating when you're not in a emotionally balanced state. She doesn't eat. And I look at her and my automatic story starts that she didn't give the report and now she's not eating. Some issue is there. So, but we go back to our desk. At 4 o'clock, we have to go from Electronic City to our Sarjapur office. We have two offices. So on the way in the car, usually Geeta is very talkative. But today she is like completely quiet because she's like that happening that Yogesh is treated me like this is going on. And then I am also kind of, increasing my automatic story that first she didn't give the report. Then she did not eat well. Now she's not talking. So by the time we reach office, we have not spoken. Like it's a Pushpak movie car. Nobody's talking to each other. Yeah. And we go there and well, by the way, she's a good presenter now. So Anand is also there and she's in front of the delegation. But she forgets one of the very important slide in the presentation because that Yogesh issue is going on in her mind. So the moment she comes out and on our, in the lobby, I give her a peace of mind, which many of you would have experienced in corporate life, that I tell her that whatever I could as a manager. And in the return, the car is even more quieter because I gave her a peace of mind. So by 6 o'clock, when we return back to Electronic City, she's leaving for office. So every day she generally, says bye to me. But today I see that she's at the parking lot without saying bye to me. So, by that time, Sarayu is in Mindtree now. She's moved to Mindtree. Vishu had pulled her in Mindtree. And Geeta calls Sarayu, on the way back, saying that Yogesh treated me like this today. And I've been working for 5 years and I don't know, this Best People Manager award also, I doubt whether, in Wipro all politics happen. So maybe you must have been given that award like that. I can't manage a single person. What Best People Manager award? You know what Sarayu tells to Geeta? I had the same experience in Wipro. Do one thing. Next Monday, don't give the report again and apply for sick leave. Let him face the music with his top management. We also have to show International Women's Day. We should show whatever. So she says, no, it's okay. And she keeps the phone. Next day, we meet at the elevator, but she just says hello and, nothing much. We talk to each other only, when there is some work. And at 1 o'clock, she says that you go ahead for lunch. I have some work. And by Thursday, her timings at 2 o'clock, I go at 1 o'clock. So lunchtime has changed. She doesn't come with me for lunch. But the work is going on. And whatever I need, I ask her, she gives delivery. But no innovation, no conversation beyond work. On Friday, I see her, on my way back at the Infosys gate. Okay, and I almost know that she's applied in Infosys, and that's her interview. She's going inside. And in next 2 weeks, I tell the HR that I want a replacement for Geeta. And Geeta decides to still continue in Wipro, but she goes into another department. Like we have wings within in Wipro, so she goes there. In her exit interview, she says that better check his Best People Manager award. I don't think, as for a small one slide, he shouts at me, doesn't value my 5 years of effort. In my exit interview, I say that we should have sacked her 2 years ago. She can't give a report on time. She goes and applies in Infosys gate. I have seen her with my eyes. She will not stay with us longer. Let's flash back to where it started. Yeah. So on that first Monday, when I went to Geeta's desk and I asked Geeta, where's the report? And the first thoughts was which came to her mind that, this is like unfair. And she comes and talks to me saying that, hey, Yogesh, I always give you the report on time for last 5 years. Just today I was tied up with that P1 issue. Hope it is okay. I might say, I don't even look at that report. Anand was asking me, that's why I came to you. Closed. When we were on lunch, I saw Geeta not eating. I could have asked Geeta, hey Geeta, kya ho gaya? You're not eating well. In the 12 o'clock, you came and not even asked me. What? That report that Anand asked me, that's why. Closed. When we are going in the car, so there were many opportunities there. I could have applied the same framework of right side processing versus left side processing. So right side processing is asking somebody, not letting the emotions of anger continue becoming irrational in the behavior. If Sarayu was to apply right side processing with Geeta, what could Sarayu tell Geeta when she called her? Sarayu, what could you tell Geeta?
You could have just taken some time from him and said that you were tied up with some other work. You'll send it by the end of the day.
Brilliant. Or you could have said, "Arey boss, no, Anand is such a genuine guy. He worked with Premji. I don't think they will have any such, politics and every organization. But Premji is not like that. I don't think a chairman's award would be fudged like this. Just go and talk to Yogesh in the morning. Maybe I think he must be under pressure. That's why he would not have come that. When I saw him at the Infosys gate and she came to office, I could have asked, hey Geeta, kya baat hai? Applying in Infosys, kya? She will say, no, Baba, my cousin who is joining as a new joinee was afraid to come on alone. So I thought I'd drop her at Infosys and come to office. That's why. So the automatic story that we create about people, the assumption that we create, many times actually don't have reality. But the challenge is, if you don't catch the unreal story early on, it is very difficult to go back and find out where it started. So I gave you this story because I have created the story of this whole event. So you can see that. But imagine if we don't catch the unreal story, because everything happens after that is real, which means she did not eat well is real. She did not speak is real. She did not present well is real. I shouted is real. I saw it Infosys is real. But everything that is real is based on something which is unreal. So from now on, as you go after this session, you'll have to start observing your automatic stories. You'll have to start observing. If I call Vishu 3 times and he doesn't pick up the phone, the thought could come that I don't think he wants to have that EI program. I think he just bada baat kya karega nahi kuch. The other is Vishu is a busy guy, or maybe he's tied up. Let me try him to WhatsApp. By tomorrow morning he'll call me back. Or my WhatsApp message would be, hey, Vishu, usually pick up the phone. Yaar, kya baat? Everything all right? Tell me if I can be of any helpful. And you will find that in every such situation, there is no intention in general of anybody. It is just that we create our own automatic story. And even if there is an issue like this, which he doesn't like my EI program, we can have a conversation about that. Because you are not judging anybody for whatever they are doing. Now, sometimes people tell me that, are you telling about that we should become like Sadhu Baba and everybody in the world is nice and we should not have automatic? No, it's all about performance. It's all about innovation. It's all about productivity. Imagine the unproductive time Geeta and Yogesh had for those 6 to 8 weeks. No conversation happening, no additional work happening. Imagine if we were to teach all this to all the managers, all the people in the organization. See the productivity that one can unleash because of all this. People have not learned how to manage the automatic story. And the last part, while you become a good productive manager, you also start improving your health, because those 6 weeks, my body is secreting a lot of cortisol in my body because of Gita. When Gita goes home, to her, her children's, what kind of experience she will give that evening? Horrible, because the whole body is filled with cortisol. When she joins another company, what will she tell new joinees? Well, ये ज़्यादा काम करने का नहीं. If you do too much of work, you will get beaten up. I worked for 5 years, then manager treated me like this. Do only what is told to you. Don't do anything extra work. If your sister's marriage, go for leave. Don't pick up the phone. Isn't it? Who is responsible for that? Both of these people. Because they did not manage their automatic stories well. And that spreads in families, that spreads in society. Yeah. So like that, and I can tell you, when you come back from tea, I'll give you one very interesting example of how can you start really tapping into people's automatic story very beautifully, and encourage people to go and figure out a new background behind why somebody is behaving like this. And that is so releasing to all of us. And we are not caught with anything. Your body is full of those dose chemical and not less of cortisol chemicals. And you're creating people where in the environment, in organization, like in crossover, for example, if there is a new joining, they will tell the new joining, hey, if you see any issue in the content, go and talk to Yogesh. Now, what is the big deal? Otherwise, you will not get any improvement, because everybody is scared about telling anybody else, saying that boss kya ho. And I am thinking that people are doing that automatically. They're not sharing what is the truth. But you as a leader are responsible for not letting the automatic story be there in the organization for too long. Yeah. So a combination of left side and right side processing and using the same framework in automatic story can make us like really a very powerful EI, person or professional. Yeah. So good. So we're at 11:20. We can take a 15 minutes, break. But before we break, anything that anybody would like to quickly share, just 2-3 minutes, any thoughts, any reflections before we take a break? Yeah, thanks, Isha. Yeah. And by the
and especially this automatic story, I think the way you have woven it, because now it is coming up as a concept.
Yes.
So we probably do it, but then now it is coming up more as a concept and a structured manner.
Yes.
Probably we will be able to make use of this learning more frequently and a more systematic manner.
Yes, absolutely. And there is so much of business benefit, Anand. For example, if I tell my sales team, "Arey, wo customer chhod na yaar, why are you following that?" They will tell, it's your automatic story. Let's follow up. No, why are you doing left side processing? They tell me.
No, this example what you gave very well happens many times. Somebody does not respond for 3 times on the WhatsApp. Now automatic assumption is, "Arey yaar, chodo yaar, ye to matlab jo hai aisi goli de raha hai." But then when you actually pick up the phone, you get to know a different story, actually, a genuine reason, and then actually it creates much better connect. And then he helps you much more than what probably you had expected in the beginning.
Exactly.
I've seen it many times.
Absolutely. And what we should do is, we should prepare ourselves to be very clean our thinking, so we should not just be, just see in our mind, it should not be that Vishu is not picked up and the third time I am trying to just show a good face to him. No, genuinely I should, in my mindset, that Vishu is struck with something, otherwise he would not reply. See, when you go to a temple, and I give the extreme example that, see, in the temple, the deity is not talking to you, but you feel so nice looking at the deity's picture or the murti. Kyun? Kyun deity is very clean. The deity is transformed to that level. So can we also be transformed at that level that our thinking itself is clean? So I'm genuinely saying that, acha, maybe we should tied up. So, so the many times in the fourth call in my mind is that we should think about the phone utaya nahi abhi kya, now he's eating, what is the point? That should not be the case. That's the cleanliness that we should cleanse ourselves every day, not let those automatic stories, get too registered in our brain.
Is that cleaning one possible? Okay, that is one, or is just a journey saying that you keep on, reminding yourself, okay, clean only for today. Let's figure out tomorrow.
So very nice. And so I asked God once, okay, I've been doing this for so many years that is it okay that now I get, I get one Nandani saying that I'm clean all, so then God told me that I can give you this, this Vardhan if you like, but then you will lose the curiosity to live, because it's all done. So for us, the way we are built up is that it's a journey, and you have to constantly keep finding out, what is the truth, and then you enjoy the journey. Yeah, so it's never like that. You will face up new challenges. Like maybe today, last November, my son got married, and a new entity has come to our home. So it's a very different challenge of EI now, for example. Yeah. So like that, So the journey will continue, but the concept is same. The concept will remain same. Maybe the degree at that which you're using is like youngsters, maybe child, teenagers, it's okay sometimes, let them have fun. But as we grow in our lives, I think we should try to acquire this. And I was, reading once Devanand's interview, and at the age of 82, he was talking about that, many old age people really become a burden to the family, and they are like praying that when this guy will go up, whereas he said that if you are like enthusiast, you bring in a lot of stuff at home, people never want you to go up, and when you go up, you're really, so it's a journey of really helping people, also creating an environment where people love working with you, people love talking to you because you're always clean, you're having some interesting thoughts. So it's a journey, not one-time cleaning. Yeah, because we'll get impure because Gita in our society, unfortunately, there are more Gita with that experience rather than the other experience. So you got more Sarayu telling that don't go to office next Monday. Very few telling that maybe I think he has some challenge. Because in general, people don't even believe that, So Gita will say, if Sarayu says this, no, maybe you have that exceptional experience, but in general, managers are like that. That's what we hear from most organizations, most families also. Yeah, so we have to start, creating as many people as we touch upon with this whole concept. It's like very proven concept. It is like scientific. You can try this out. You can see the change in your health. I've had participants whose sugar levels have gone down, blood pressures have completely, gone away. A headache is a big thing which got cured in the EI session. I mean, in some cases, I've had situation where one of the participants asked me that I've got constant migraine. And, I was not really formally coaching her, but I was generally checking, talking to her. And I asked her that, do you go to general parties? And she said, no, I don't like to go there. And then I asked her that how many people you have. And in my mind, I knew that she must be the third or fourth daughter in the family. And bang on, she's the third daughter. So what happens with the third daughter in Indian context is somewhere in the childhood, in the formative age, the parent would have said we were expecting a boy, but we got a girl. What is she processing in mind? I am an unwanted child, which means I am an unwanted child for the entire world also. So whenever there is a party, I don't want to go. So the thought that the party is on Saturday gives her migraine on Thursday. Because migraine is basically fighting with something that you're not comfortable with. Yeah, there's a starting point. You get that sun and all that is another physiological thing. But the first part is that. Slowly we over-coaching, we got her away from that. I said, your parents were just sharing what they, it doesn't mean they don't like you. Or they don't, but it's what the society was expecting. And that is what the conversation. She was so upset with the parent and that relationship got revived. Yeah, because why did they do this to me? But they didn't do this. This is just a conversation. I asked her, did they not put effort to get you married? Was there anything that they did not do enough in your marriage? Everything. They gave everything that is required. If that was the case, why would they do? Did they not give you education? Everything they did. But just that formative limbic system experience continued to give her migraine. Yeah. But I think I should let you go for tea because it's already 11:30. We'll take a 15 minutes tea break. And generally, we did not put the rules, but those who come in late, beyond 15 minutes, like 11:45, Vishu has told that although it's a pro bono session, but those who come in late, 5,000 rupees multiplied by the number of participants. And if you think that how do I transfer on online, so I've got Google Pay, Phone Pay, direct transfer, all facilities. Okay, see you at 11:45.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Just before I give you, 5 minutes to write down some of those stories that we spoke about, I just want to quickly show you the place where, our prefrontal cortex is actually, located. So if you look at, so here is also a nice model that you want to also consider. So it's called the meet, greet, treat model, so you meet the emotion on your body, so whenever those situations come, you first see the emotion on the body, and you saw the heat map. All this is there in your participant workbook. So whatever you are seeing here is there in your workbook also. So take a look at this, meet on your body, greet them by name, so you are basically, and Anant, you asked, and Vishwas, you asked about this question of how do you create that pause. So this is the way to create that pause. So the moment you give a name to that, oh, is it sad now, or is it scared now, or is it mad now, so you are basically, and then treat them. And how do you treat them? By connecting the limbic system with prefrontal cortex with right side processing. Yeah, so that's the, this is a mantra. You can, if you like, you can print it, you can put it with your hand on a post-it, put it in as many places in your home. Post the session, once you buy all the Amazon exercise equipment and Skechers shoes, talk about this today evening with your family. Take them through. See, you also we'll have the recording with you. You can watch this recording with your family next weekend whenever you like. But all of us should, in our home, know about this concept. Youngsters should know about this concept. They should be aware of how do you process that. And here is the last part of the brain that I was going to talk about, which is the amygdala, and it is right situated below the limbic system. So you saw that, like, here is the prefrontal cortex, here is the limbic system, and as I was telling you, the amygdala can get activated very automatically. So whenever there is a threat, whenever there is, so you would have seen, like, when you go to the to the airport, many times you see people getting very upset with the staff. They start shouting at the top of their voice. Is because if you go to the airport and the airline staff says that, sir, your flight is cancelled or rescheduled, and you have a next day session, obviously the big threat is that what will happen to the session. So all the blood from your brain goes to your body, in the threat to prepare the body. But if you know that, I think you can't do much about it because it's an airline, maybe aircraft issue, then you start getting the blood back to the brain, and you ask the staff that, is there any other flight that I can take? You call your client and say that my flight is got rescheduled. So is there a weekend? You can tell the participant that they can start late, or you get an alternate facilitator for the first staff. So all these ideas come if you can manage the amygdala well. Yeah. So I'll give you like 5 minutes to write down, in your workbook. You have got a place where you can talk about the limbic system, rational brain, right side, left side processing. Then you have got early experiences, is a section where you can write about Gita story. And then the automatic story is about the story of Yogesh, Anand, and Gita. So you can write all this, and then we will invite Guy Winch. So Guy Winch is the psychologist based out of New York, a very good speaker, and he has a very beautiful TED talk that I'm going to talk about emotional hygiene, and we'll learn some very interesting concepts, from Guy Winch. So I'll get the video ready. In the meantime, you can take 5 minutes to just jot down, all that we spoke about, the Gita story, about automatic stories, about her inability to speak in the presentation, his childhood story. and then we'll invite Guy Bench. Yeah?
Hey, hi Yogesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we just want us to recall all those part, whatever you said, and update that in the notes, right?
Right. So then, what will happen is that when you're running this session for your family, then it will be easy
Acha,
for you to you narrate, like
acha, acha.
you can watch the recording also and prepare like really good as a facilitator, like.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So these
So
points will help you to recall actually.
yeah. So I was about to, I was writing. Meanwhile, I saw this processing of emotion and feeling. The point one, whatever you say, right? I mean, I somehow can correlate in that every time my boss checks the work I have done, if he finds something wrong, see himself. I mean, this is something happens with me most of the time.
So if you were to do right side processing, what would be your response?
Yeah, that is something I would learn. Yeah.
I can. So was really finding this whole approach quite connecting actually.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Because
absolutely.
Yogesh, would you mind just sharing that slide where you talk about differences between feelings and emotions?
Yes. In fact, there we had like this one. You want?
This one, yeah, this is the one.
Yeah. Sure.
Hi, Yogesh.
Yeah, sure.
This is Vivek. I'm not able to locate some of these slides in the workbook.
Okay, no problem. So what I'll do is I'll just check with the content, but I'll email this deck to Vishu, and Vishu can email to all of you either on the roots. Vishu, you have the email ID or you will put it on the roots and shoots.
You can directly put it on roots and shoots.
I'll do
PDF, yeah.
PDF I'll put, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So Vic, this slide, I think I'll check why they have not put it in the PG, but I'll send this deck to all of you. So you can run the sessions for your teams, for your family. Yeah.
That'll be great, Yogesh. Thank you so much.
Yeah. This has to be like a must-have skill for all of us, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to invite Guy Winch, and he's going to talk about a couple of concepts in the video, and I want you all to write down all the concepts. So he talks about something called rumination. I think a couple of them. I want each of you to write the. Then we'll have like a 2 minutes sharing, and then after that I will go through the four, aspects of. Now you've got the conceptual understanding. Yeah. Now how do we practice that? So there are four aspects to it. One is the self-awareness part, which is in some form we spoke about that. How do I recognize what are the emotions in my body? Second is, how do you manage those, self-management. Yeah. Third is social awareness, which means that if I look at Suhas, and if I talk to Suhas, do I know from his conversation, from his expression, that is he really in the right state of conversation? Is he going something in the, so that's social awareness. So जैसे हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, पहले खुद को जीतो देन दुनिया को जीतो. To win the world, you need to win yourself first. So it's a very nice way to first do self-awareness, self-management, then do social awareness, and then using all these things, how can you build relationship? Yeah. So with the Reliance guy, right, I'll slowly build relationship with him. Next time he'll meet me, he'll possibly recognize me, or if I were to be his colleague, then he will again talk to me. Yeah. Like similarly, Sarayu, on the other part that she played, she can build great relationship with Geeta. Yeah, like that. So we can essentially, start building using all that. So there are 4 dimensions. Each of them has got 10 points, and these are like practical points that you can start building it up and then start practicing. So let me invite, Guy Winch, and you can make a note of all the points that he's speaking about in the TED Talk.
I grew up with my identical twin, who was an incredibly loving brother. Now, one thing about being a twin is it makes you an expert at spotting favoritism. If his cookie was even slightly bigger than my cookie, I had questions. And clearly, I wasn't starving. When I became a psychologist, I began to notice favoritism of a different kind. And that is how much more we value the body than we do the mind. I spent 9 years at university earning my doctorate in psychology, and I can't tell you how many people look at my business card and say, "Oh, a psychologist, so not a real doctor." As if it should say that on my card. This favoritism, we show the body over the mind. I see it everywhere. I recently was at a friend's house and their 5-year-old was getting ready for bed. He was standing on a stool by the sink brushing his teeth when he slipped and scratched his leg on the stool when he fell. He cried for a minute, but then he got back up, got back on the stool, and reached out for a box of Band-Aids to put one on his cut. Now, this kid could barely tie his shoelaces, but he knew you have to cover a cut so it doesn't become infected, and you have to care for your teeth by brushing twice a day. We all know how to maintain our physical health and how to practice dental hygiene, right? We know it since we were 5 years old. But what do we know about maintaining our psychological health? Well, nothing. What do we teach our children about emotional hygiene? Nothing. How is it we spend more time taking care of our teeth than we do our minds? Why is it our physical health is so much more important to us than our psychological health? You know, we sustain psychological injuries even more often than we do physical ones, injuries like failure or rejection or loneliness. And they can also get worse if we ignore them, and they can impact our lives in dramatic ways. And yet, even though there are scientifically proven techniques we could use to treat these kinds of psychological injuries, we don't. It doesn't even occur to us that we should. Oh, you're feeling depressed. Just shake it off. It's all in your head. Can you imagine saying that to somebody with a broken leg? Oh, just walk it off. It's all in your leg. It is time we close the gap between our physical and our psychological health. It's time we made them more equal, more like twins. Speaking of which, my brother is also a psychologist, so he's not a real doctor either. We didn't study together, though. In fact, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is move across the Atlantic to New York City to get my doctorate in psychology. We were apart then for the first time in our lives, and the separation was brutal for both of us. But while he remained among family and friends, I was alone in a new country. We missed each other terribly, but international phone calls were really expensive then, and we could only afford to speak for 5 minutes a week. When our birthday rolled around, it was the first we wouldn't be spending together. We decided to splurge, and that week we would talk for 10 minutes. I spent the morning pacing around my room, waiting for him to call, and waiting, and waiting. But the phone didn't ring. Given the time difference, I assumed, okay, he's out with friends, he'll call later. There were no cell phones then. But he didn't. And I began to realize that after being away for over 10 months, he no longer missed me the way I missed him. Now, I knew he would call in the morning, but that night was one of the saddest and longest nights of my life. I woke up the next morning. I glanced down at the phone, and I realized I had kicked it off the hook when pacing the day before. I stumbled out of bed, I put the phone back on the receiver, and it rang a second later. And it was my brother. And boy, was he pissed. It was the saddest and longest night of his life as well. Now, I tried to explain what happened, but he said, I don't understand. If you saw I wasn't calling you, why didn't you just pick up the phone and call me? He was right. Why didn't I call him? I didn't have an answer then, but I do today, and it's a simple one. Loneliness. Loneliness creates a deep psychological wound, one that distorts our perceptions and scrambles our thinking. It makes us believe that those around us care much less than they actually do. It makes us really afraid to reach out, because why set yourself up for rejection and heartache when your heart is already aching more than you can stand? I was in the grips of real loneliness back then, but I was surrounded by people all day, so it never occurred to me. But loneliness is defined purely subjectively. It depends solely on whether you feel emotionally or socially disconnected from those around you, and I did. There is a lot of research on loneliness, and all of it is horrifying. Loneliness won't just make you miserable, it will kill you. I'm not kidding. Chronic loneliness increases your likelihood of an early death by 14%. 14%. Loneliness causes high blood pressure, high cholesterol. It even suppresses the functioning of your immune system, making you vulnerable to all kinds of illnesses and diseases. In fact, scientists have concluded that taken together, chronic loneliness poses as significant a risk for your long-term health and longevity as cigarette smoking. Now, cigarette packs come with warnings saying this could kill you, but loneliness doesn't. And that's why it's so important we prioritize our psychological health, that we practice emotional hygiene. Because you can't treat a psychological wound if you don't even know you're injured. Loneliness isn't the only psychological wound that distorts our perceptions and misleads us. Failure does that as well. I once visited a daycare center where I saw 3 toddlers play with identical plastic toys. You had to slide the red button and a cute doggy would pop out. One little girl tried pulling the purple button, then pushing it, and then she just sat back and looked at the box with her lower lip trembling. The little boy next to her watched this happen, then turned to his box and burst into tears without even touching it. Meanwhile, another little girl tried everything she could think of until she slid the red button, the cute doggy popped out, and she squealed with delight. So, 3 toddlers with identical plastic toys, but with very different reactions to failure. The first 2 toddlers were perfectly capable of sliding a red button. The only thing that prevented them from succeeding was their mind tricked them into believing they could not. Now, adults get tricked this way as well all the time. In fact, we all have a default set of feelings and beliefs that gets triggered whenever we encounter frustrations and setbacks. Are you aware of how your mind reacts to failure? You need to be. Because if your mind tries to convince you you're incapable of something and you believe it, then like those 2 toddlers, you'll begin to feel helpless and you'll stop trying too soon, or you won't even try at all. And then you'll be even more convinced you can't succeed. You see, that's why so many people function below their actual potential. Because somewhere along the way, sometimes a single failure convinced them that they couldn't succeed, and they believed it. Once we become convinced of something, it's very difficult to change our mind. I learned that lesson the hard way when I was a teenager with my brother. We were driving with friends down a dark road at night when a police car stopped us. There had been a robbery in the area and they were looking for suspects. The officer approached the car and he shined his flashlight on the driver, then on my brother in the front seat, and then on me, and his eyes opened wide and he said, "Where have I seen your face before?" And I said, "In the front seat." But that made no sense to him whatsoever, so now he thought I was on drugs. So he drags me out of the car, he searches me, he marches me over to the police car, and only when he verified I don't have a police record could I show him I had a twin in the front seat. But even as we were driving away, you could see by the look on his face, he was convinced that I was getting away with something. Our mind is hard to change once we become convinced. So it might be very natural to feel demoralized and defeated after you fail, but you cannot allow yourself to become convinced you can't succeed. You have to fight feelings of helplessness. You have to gain control over the situation. And you have to break this kind of negative cycle before it begins. Our minds and our feelings, they're not the trustworthy friends we thought they were. They're more like a really moody friend who can be totally supportive one minute and really unpleasant the next. I once worked with this woman who, after 20 years of marriage and an extremely ugly divorce, was finally ready for her first date. She had met this guy online, and he seemed nice, and he seemed successful, and most importantly, he seemed really into her. So she was very excited. She bought a new dress, and they met at an upscale New York City bar for a drink. 10 minutes into the date, the man stands up and says, "I'm not interested," and walks out. Rejection is extremely painful. The woman was so hurt she couldn't move. All she could do was call a friend. And here's what the friend said. "Well, what do you expect? You have big hips, you have nothing interesting to say. Why would a handsome, successful man like that ever go out with a loser like you?" Shocking, right, that a friend can be so cruel. But it would be much less shocking if I told you it wasn't the friend who said that. It's what the woman said to herself. And that's something we all do, especially after a rejection. We all start thinking of all our faults and all our shortcomings, what we wish we were, what we wish we weren't. We call ourselves names, maybe not as harshly, but we all do it. And it's interesting that we do, because our self-esteem is already hurting. Why would we want to go and damage it even further? Right? We wouldn't make a physical injury worse on purpose. You wouldn't get a cut on your arm and decide, "Oh, I know, I'm going to take a knife and see how much deeper I can make it." But we do that with psychological injuries all the time. Why? Because of poor emotional hygiene. Because we don't prioritize our psychological health. We know from dozens of studies that when your self-esteem is lower, you are more vulnerable to stress and to anxiety, that failures and rejections hurt more, and it takes longer to recover from them. So when you get rejected, the first thing you should be doing is to revive your self-esteem, not join Fight Club and beat it into a pulp. When you're in emotional pain, treat yourself with the same compassion you would expect from a truly good friend. We have to catch our unhealthy psychological habits and change them. And one of the unhealthiest and most common is called rumination. To ruminate means to chew over. It's when your boss yells at you, or your professor makes you feel stupid in class, or you have a big fight with a friend, and you just can't stop replaying the scene in your head for days, sometimes for weeks on end. Now, ruminating about upsetting events in this way can easily become a habit, and it's a very costly one. Because by spending so much time focused on upsetting and negative thoughts, you are actually putting yourself at significant risk for developing clinical depression, alcoholism, eating disorders, and even cardiovascular disease. The problem is, the urge to ruminate can feel really strong and really important, so it's a difficult habit to stop. I know this for a fact, because a little over a year ago, I developed the habit myself. You see, my twin brother was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. His cancer was extremely aggressive. He had visible tumors all over his body. And he had to start a harsh course of chemotherapy. And I couldn't stop thinking about what he was going through. I couldn't stop thinking about how much he was suffering. Even though he never complained, not once. He had this incredibly positive attitude. His psychological health was amazing. I was physically healthy, but psychologically I was a mess. But I knew what to do. Studies tell us that even a 2-minute distraction is sufficient to break the urge to ruminate in that moment. And so each time I had a worrying, upsetting, negative thought, I forced myself to concentrate on something else until the urge passed. And within 1 week, my whole outlook changed and became more positive and more hopeful. 9 weeks after he started chemotherapy, my brother had a CAT scan, and I was by his side when he got the results. All the tumors were gone. He still had 3 more rounds of chemotherapy to go, but we knew he would recover. This picture was taken 2 weeks ago. By taking action when you're lonely, by changing your responses to failure, by protecting your self-esteem, by battling negative thinking, you won't just heal your psychological wounds, you will build emotional resilience. You will thrive. 100 years ago, people began practicing personal hygiene, and life expectancy rates rose by over 50% in just a matter of decades. I believe our quality of life could rise just as dramatically if we all began practicing emotional hygiene. Can you imagine what the world would be like if everyone was psychologically healthier? If there were less loneliness and less depression? If people knew how to overcome failure? If they felt better about themselves and more empowered? If they were happier and more fulfilled? I can, because that's the world I want to live in. And that's the world my brother wants to live in as well. And if you just become informed and change a few simple habits, well, that's the world we can all live in. Thank you very much.
Any thoughts, any reflections on the talk by Guy Winch?
I think first time I figured out distraction is very positive.
Yes. Absolutely, Nandan. Very nice.
He talked about ruminating as a what's the word he used?
Ruminating, yes.
Unhealthy psychological habit.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is that the only one he talked about? Did he talk about any others? I'm not sure if I.
Yeah, in fact, he kind of sometimes there is a little bit of duplication, but the reason he does that is that in his book also he speaks that some people can catch on to that phase, some can something else. But the point is about rumination. Yes.
Yogesh, can you probably expand or go a little more deeper in explaining the rumination part?
So what happens then, or maybe I can, as a facilitator, ask any participant to explain.
Okay, that's also great.
Yeah. So anybody would like to give it a try?
I think see, I can give it a try. Not
Yes,
sure.
please.
See, all of us have coping skills, and rumination is nothing. I feel is nothing but a coping skill, and each of us, based on how we are brought up and how we are, we develop coping skills to a certain extent, and after that, right, as he rightly told, right, it is like a twin. Your physical health and your psychological health is your twin. You take care of only your physical health, you do not take care of your psychological health. What happens is there are certain limits to which our coping skills are developed, and it is based on all our experiences. And once the coping skills we do not have, then like a elastic, it twitches. I think rumination is all about developing coping skills as we grow. So this is what my understanding is. Not
Yes.
sure whether I'm right or wrong.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So just to add to what Srivastava said, Nandan, is that, say, assuming that if we take that same example of Anant and me, and Anant says that your session was rubbish, for example, now what do I do after that? Do I constantly keep remembering that? Why did Anand say this? I'm no good. I should have not done this. So this is like recalling the same thought again and again. Yeah. And which is sometimes depending on individual to individual, some may like keep ruminating for 2-3 days. Some may just give it up in 5 minutes, saying that it's okay. I think Anand possibly experienced that. Let me do something else in the future session. So what Guy Winch in his book also talks about is that you have to, kind of take an awareness of yourself, that how long do you take to keep a particular argument with you and keep thinking about that. And the good part is that we can change that. Meaning, if you take sometimes like 2 days today, you can reduce it to 1 day to 2 hours to sometimes even 2 minutes. And at some stage, you will not even get upset with anybody. So, that's the pattern. And also, as I was saying, right, there is a combination of our thinking and our chemical in our, when we talk about psychiatric health, it is essentially, what does psychiatrist do? If my natural chemical secretion is less, they start inducing more chemical, in the brain to get the person to be normal. Okay, but what we are telling in EI and this programs is that can we avoid that as much as possible and put in certain habits, certain patterns that can naturally start developing those chemical in our brain. So the habit of doing exercise, doing right side processing, not letting our automatic stories go too far, are ways to manage that. Yeah. Yeah, Shashikara. Yeah.
Yeah. What I think is after the incident, failure or anything, we should analyze once, or
Yes.
maybe at the time twice, and we have to see whether any improvements I can make or what went wrong,
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
Any learning, any takeaway from that.
Yes.
After that, we should forget it and move on, and we should be more kind to ourselves.
Yes.
Because as a human being, just like how we are kind to one friend who is undergoing some this thing, so we should also be kind to ourselves.
Yes.
Or something we can do, like, or we can write down where I went wrong or what was the problem.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
we can start taking action, or we can just divert. You can start walking or go for swimming or something.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
that emotional
Those who are in Mysore can be kind to me by sending Lakshmi Mysore Park also. That is also one way of kindness.
Yeah, but never ruminate after that.
Okay, yes.
Rumination really destroys you.
Yes. Yeah, Anant.
No, I think Sashikala covered my point.
Okay, awesome. Very nice. Yeah. Anand.
Yeah, I also wanted to say what Shashikala has just said, but one thing I wanted to say, that rumination, to avoid rumination, first we have to accept it. Accept, then take action, and then forget.
Yes.
We talked about taking action and forgetting, but I think the basic problem comes in accepting it, because we keep negating the, no, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? So unless I accept it, now probably I don't even get ready to take action.
Yes. So I have one my suggestion, and I follow it myself. Okay, in the sense, if you come to my office, you will see, there are like hundreds of paper lying in the office, wherein I have a very structured, life that I love to lead. In the sense, there is so much every day to do. So even if there is a situation like this, I don't have time for that too long. So if you can also put in your life in such a way that there is some other thing that you're always involved with, then you don't really have time for all that.
Right.
That phrase we have, no idle minds is the devil's workshop.
Devil's workshop.
Actually, clearly that, because there are so if you're keeping, and I'm not saying that keep your life so tight that you don't have time to enjoy.
Right.
You should, but you should not have too much of vacant time also, that it kind of, if in the vacant time the situation happens, it kind of bothers you.
Everything fills into that.
Yeah, so you fill your life very nicely, actually. Yeah.
Very well said. Thank you.
Sure. So I'll take you through this 4 dimensions that we'll talk about, and there is a very nice book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and I would like you all to essentially buy that book. It's a very nice book. All of us should read that book. Yeah, so there are about 4 dimensions that, as I was talking to you, that one is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So you will look at all the 4. Yeah. So if you look at that book, very beautifully he has described, but I have captured some very interesting points and I will walk you through them, but you should read the book to go into details. So the first is about, I think, treating our feelings and generation of emotion as good or bad, in the sense that, we will, we don't want to really get into this habit of, judging ourselves, that am I so bad, am I so good? So just kind of first step is just keep observing that, how am I processing, my emotions and feelings, what am I doing to too much of right side, left side processing? Am I doing too much of automatic stories? So just observe first time. Second is observe the ripple effect of your left side processing, which means that if you look at Gita's story, see the ripple effect on her children's, on her spouse, because if she does too much of left side processing, for Yogesh, what will happen to the people she's working on? Even Sarayu, for example, when that evening when Sarayu told Gita that next Monday don't go and to the office and make Yogesh suffer. What is the ripple effect of her left side processing? Will the body generate a chemical that will be no, it will not. Yeah. Feel your emotions physically. We spoke about that quite a bit. So now you also know the heat map. So you can now start, and this is all these points are coming under self-awareness. Yeah. Know who and what pushes your button. So, in this book, he talks about this character who used to get very upset with people in office who had a very loud voice. Yeah. And, when Travis was doing coaching to him, he realized that his elder sister was a national debate champion, and she used to be taken by the parents to different cities, different competitions, and he was very ignored, as a child, and the sister would always practice with a very loud voice. So that hatred and that experience that he had in the childhood kind of subconsciously also continued in the limbic system in the office. So the moment anybody was loud, he would actually get upset. Now that guy who is loud, just he has a loud voice. He never knew that why is this other person getting upset. So in the awareness, as you go in the journey, you have to start putting yourself in your workbook or in your diary that who are the people, what are the situations that really makes you upset, and keep a journal about your processing. So I would say that maybe from today you can just take a 100-page book or any other diary, or if you want to use it on mobile, no problem. But just note down for 5-10 minutes in the night, like how has been your processing all through the day. When you went to a restaurant, when you were in the car, when you spoke to somebody, when you're with the client, what was your processing? What kind of thoughts went into your mind, and then very beautifully over a period of 30 days or 60 days, you will start seeing a pattern, that there are certain patterns either in the morning. And I'm also trying to bring in the physiology and the psychology together, which means that in the morning, like when we sleep in the night, almost like 2.5 liters of water get consumed because of breathing, because of sleeping. So getting up in the morning, drinking 2 or 3 glasses of water with some sea salt is a very good practice to do. So the point is that our brain also works physiologically and also works on psychology. So you have to take care of both part of it. Like in spirituality, we say, right, your body is like your temple. So you have to take care of the body also as much as you take care of about your thinking. Yeah. Seventh is don't make any decision in good mood or bad mood. Because if you like, I remember one participant sharing that he in the 8th point, he was saying that he got a promotion, and that day he threw a party in Sheraton to all the colleagues and said everything is on the house. And the bill when it came from Sheraton was much higher than the increment that he got with the promotion. So sometimes you have to be careful on what do you do in good mood and also in bad mood. So now as we go along in the journey, you will start practicing and not making the decision in those 2 moods, and check yourself regularly. So I always recommend my participants to keep like 2 times, and I do it usually myself. One is post lunch, so if and my team knows at Crossover that I don't quickly have a meeting after lunch. So after lunch, and even while at Wipro, I used to take like 10 minutes off after lunch, so I'll sit for myself and see in the morning, how has been the morning for me, how did I manage, and just about 10 minutes. So this checking of yourself regularly is like a practice of intentional practice, because our brain, as I was saying, is responsive to intentional practice. So checking yourself is just cooling down yourself, reflecting on how has been the morning. And I do one in the evening around 6 o'clock, after tea. So you can decide which. And the reason I'm telling you this is that lunch usually we have every day, tea we have every day. So if you tie up your checking with something that is part of your routine, you will not miss that up. And last is that what is the response when somebody gives you feedback? What kind of emotions that you get when you do that. So these are the 10 points that will help you to build your self-awareness. So I'll give you like 2-3 minutes to just jot down some of the examples, the understanding of these points, or you can ask me also any questions that you have on these points. Then we move to the next one. So I'll give you 2-3 minutes to just, or 5 minutes to write about this example, then the explanation, so that when you're teaching this to others, you can you can use those in your facilitation.
See, the one question that I had is, see, when you are, particularly working in a corporate sector,
Yes.
right? You get attached to your emotions and feelings, and sometimes they tend to kind of deceive you, even though you are self-aware. The attachment which comes with, that, sometimes emotions and feelings deceive.
Yes.
So, so this is happening. So, is there any practical way?
Give me one example of one of the attachments.
So, what happens is when you're working in a project initially, you want to see it in green, and you make all out effort and ensure that it is in green. And what happens is, over a period of time, you want to make it in green,
Yeah.
and you have built such great rapport with the stakeholders and all that, right? And then they expect the same thing to continue in the next year also.
Yes.
So what happens is, in the next year, because you have put so much of effort, right? You will not be able to sustain that effort over a period of time.
Yes.
And this is where that attachment which came in the beginning is not no longer there. And that attachment should not have come in the initial place. It should have been a normal work. But in a kind of an effort to please yourself, not your boss or anybody, you do this and it deceives sometimes. So this is what I want.
Yeah, very I think very deep question. And
Yogesh, can I add?
yes, yes, please, please. Yeah.
I mean, I think I would just want to extend the same thing between a customer and I mean, as a partner or whatever it is, especially in the IT industry, because a lot of relationship happens. So the customer, and then you're moving too close to him because we are building a relationship. So he does not take no for an answer. Okay, because he believes that he is doing everything or a great favor by giving you business. Okay, and so I've always told customers, saying, telling you well in advance that we may let you down itself is a big favor I'm doing. But some people take it positively, but there are other set of people who also take it negatively. How do you handle such situations? Because we have grown too close to comfort in that relationship.
So, I think I am listening that there are two extremes, like one is Nandan's extreme. Before anything also, you're keeping a disclaimer. On the other part, Srivastav is putting extreme attachment and getting suffering for yourself. I think if you have to apply this framework that we learned, meaning just for yourself, see whether, are you going through left side processing or you doing right side processing in those situations. So if you're feeling burnt out in the next year, see what kind of stories that you're telling. If you were to confess that to the stakeholders, that I am feeling exhausted, is there a different way to handle this, and asking the team also, because many a time my feeling is that we take too much of load on ourselves and think that I think everything I only have to do. But you start seeing, and there is a very nice book I would recommend called Humble Leadership and Humble Inquiry by Edgar Schein. EDGARSCHEIN. And what Edgar has been promoting for leaders is that many times we don't even ask people that, I am really exhausted. Is there a way we can still deliver to the promise, but, not with the same energy I have? Is there a way to do it? And you'll start seeing, Srivastava, there is so much of support available, which we don't take. So I don't think you need to so I would not say that you should not aim for that same level of performance next year. You should. In fact, you should bypass that. But don't do it yourself. Get so many more people in the whole gang. Yeah. And you will find that there is so much of, people wanting to grow along with you. And you're also going in the process. So if we take too much on ourselves, then you're not getting the people to contribute. And then you feel really exhausted about that. But I would say that don't reduce your enthusiasm to do at the same level. Target bypassing last year.
Yeah.
No, but but Yogesh, as he said, right? So we set the expectation, and we end up in that same expectation, right? People expect us to get into that same rhythm, and sometimes what happens because of that, we owning too many things, others will tend to avoid it. They don't join along with us, and we end up in finally the owners of all these things.
So again, so as you said, we have to always look at ourselves and see that where have we not inspired others to come along with us, isn't it? So are they seeing the same purpose that you are seeing? Do you give enough autonomy to people to operate? Because otherwise, Suhas is saying, do this way only, and people are saying, I don't want to do this is the way I want. So are you doing that? Are you helping people learn something new?
Yeah, so empowering them, right?
Completely.
So, yeah.
When people are coming along with you, there is somewhere that you have not done the good job.
Yeah, but Yogesh, I mean, maybe one other question on the same lines. The team whom I'm trying to empower should also be, at least, capable and, at least, I mean, again, you can say that I feel it is not, but, if I have a release or something which has to be bad, it has to be met in the same expectation, right? So whether they will be able or capable of doing that.
So
how can
I am so glad that you are giving your own answers very beautifully now on. So I'm like getting ready to close the session on 1 o'clock actually. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, you will find a lot of things that we are not doing as leaders, and maybe expecting the team. And I think I always love to use this Hindi phrase. Like say a participant asked me that like no matter how much we do to people, I think people are not responding to what we are saying and all that. And I say that there is a Hindi proverb saying that कुछ तो मजबूरियां रही होंगी नहीं तो वो बेवफा नहीं होते. Right? If you look at that aspect, though, there must be some formative experience, some limbic system that is making them not perform. Instead of labeling them, can I go behind their thinking and say that why is he not performing? What could I do to enable that person? Can I give him procrastinate purpose book? Can I sit with the person and do something along with the person? I show them actually how to do it. Can I, if I'm in crossover, can I go and work with my facilitator in the session and show him how can I lead a particular case study rather than saying that the facilitator, if at crossover any facilitator is not getting a good score, okay, we never get them out of crossover. We give them at least 6 opportunities for them to come back to a good score. And we facilitate, some of our senior facilitators go with the facilitator to do that. And then we kind of find out where they are, and what happens with that. This effort, Suhas, you only have to do in the initial phase of your organization. The guy who is getting pulled up actually becomes your ambassador for future. He will keep looking out. Hey, don't worry, yaar, ये तो मेरे भी तो ऐसा हो गया था. मैं करता चल, come, I'll come with you. So you're building a culture of, at some point you don't even need to do that. Somebody else is doing for you, because you help that first set of people. But generally what happens is under the pressure that we are in, we always look for alternator. Yeah, this guy is not doing well, let me find somebody else. Hey Vishu, can you recommend some facilitator there? Rather than me spending, well, that need little bit of extra effort. I have to work with the person, I have to do some amount of clearing call with the person, give him some examples. And in the pressure, sometimes we don't do that, but we have to somehow take this route only, which is more sustainable for future. Yeah. So Srivasa, then you're actually taking on more, saying that, boss, I could do third year even higher than the first year or second year. Because there are the entire lobbies coming along with you who are telling, hey Srivasa, can we do this more next year? Yeah, this is like easy what we did last year. Can that be the environment that we create? Isn't it? And then where is the scope for depression anymore? No, so
Correct.
time ही नहीं है. There's so much to be done, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. And customers love that. Customers love that enthusiasm. Customers love that, that attitude of, sir, tell me what you want to do. We'll get it done for you. You're a team of people. We'll try this out. And one customer will try, the other customers will, you are such an innovative company. Actually, you are not innovative. Somebody else give you the idea. So my customers only help me innovate, but I get the credit by the other customers. Isn't it? But the team should be very empowered. They should feel that, so let's try this. Okay. If not, I think, our boss will help us in navigate that. Versus, so a couple of large companies I have seen, the CEO was very upset whenever there was a customer complaint coming in. Yeah. And I think I remember Vishu giving this example, I think in one of our conversation. Yeah. So if the point is that it all boils down to what we are learning today. This half a day session is the entire crux of the way we operate, and the ideas can be numerous that will keep coming to us once we have our own process of this, and not much, just the recognizing of emotion, doing left side versus right side processing, and not trusting our automatic stories, and always trying to try something new. If you do that, I think more than enough. Yeah. So I'll move to the next part because we just have 15 more minutes left and I have to cover 3 more slides. So self-management is, about how do you essentially manage once you have become aware of your emotions and aware of your processing. So breathing right is very important. And reason I was asking you all to also do exercise is that when we exercise, the brain gets enough oxygen to deal with any of these complex situations that the prefrontal cortex has to deal with. Yeah, which means that if you're practicing yoga, most of us do very shallow breathing. We do breathing from our chest, not from our stomach. If you do proper breathing, then you're actually giving enough oxygen to your brain. So exercise, doing yoga, all very helpful. Create a list of situations where you did not connect with your limbic system. So where did you kind of lose your fuse when you just operated with limbic system? So in Gita's case, when she is not taking on the presentation, she is actually not connecting with the rational brain. Yeah, making your goals public. Public is because, so today if you go back and Suhas, you tell your people around that I really have this, fear of stage, and I really want to overcome. I got to know from Yogesh's session on EI that my amygdala gets activated. So by the next 6 months, I want to become a great presenter. What will happen? The people around you, when there is an opportunity, they will say, so if you make this public with all of us and say, Anant will say that, yes, was you wanted to try this, no? There is an opportunity, why don't you go and present it? So making it public will help that the entire universe will start supporting, to your cause that you're dealing with. Count to 10 is, I think, a very old old suggestion that we know that 1 to 10 will cool down your amygdala, and sleep on it is, I think sometimes when your amygdala is very activated or we are in that, phase of too much of cortisol, I think we don't take decisions well. So sleep on it is just giving some time, over the night. Talk to your EI leaders. So we spoke about that leader that we spoke about. So you will now start maybe making a connection with leaders in your past who have demonstrated whatever we have spoke. So they may not have the language of left side processing, right side processing. They might not even know prefrontal cortex, but they are natural at that. So the idea to talk to them, so you can talk to your leaders whom you kind of now connect and tell them we went through this story. We had a lot of stories in this, and we thought that your behavior is matching to the session that Yogesh, led, and we would like to also have once in 2 months conversation with you. And you will see that such leaders are very, very helpful in the journey. Yeah. Smile and laugh more is a very interesting study that was done in French university, and I'll show you how that is. So there were two control groups, were given the same set of comics. Okay, and one group was said that you read the comic, and they put some apparatus on the head, and they were watching the amount of happiness chemicals that was getting secreted. Okay, so this group, they did that. The other group also, they did the same comic, but they told that take this pen and put it in the mouth like this. Okay, so the moment I put it inside, the physical muscle in my brain actually starts creating chemicals even before I start reading the comic, which means that if I am not even feeling like, say, happy, and if I just do a physical plastic smile, the brain doesn't understand. It starts creating chemicals, and I start feeling happy because the chemical has got secreted, which means I can make myself happy whenever I want. Now, after the session, don't go out of your room just smiling too much, because they'll say, what kind of session we should organize? And this guy is smiling too much. Yeah. But when people are not looking at you, you can experiment this for yourself and see that just that physiological smile is that making the chemicals come in your body. And even try with the pen also. Yeah.
Yogesh, people may think there is some online drugs is happening.
Absolutely. But now you can relate to a laughter club. See, if you go to a lot of societies, right? Initially, you feel that, what is this odd way they're laughing? But after about 5-10 minutes, you also start laughing because the chemical in the brain will start, because you look at the laughing people, you also, expand your mouth and you start, laughing. Yeah. So very interesting.
Yeah, but Yogesh, there is one more thing in this. It's always a pair of opposite, right? It's like if you laugh more, if you smile more, you will also have a opposite emotions as well, where you end up crying. So for whatever reasons, right? So both the emotions will come. That's what I could sometimes observe as well.
Why not? I mean, in Indian, men's don't cry is the taboo that we've been brought up from our childhood. No problem. If you feel like crying, please cry. When I go to some of the movies, I absolutely cry. I mean, I just can't stop. My wife is like looking at me, but I enjoy the crying also because I'm like in the movie fully, enjoying that experience. Absolutely. So as you should do both actually. Yeah. Set aside 15 minutes, and I saw that reflection time. And self-talk is nothing but the talk that I spoke about, like what will happen to roots and shoots evolve people who are coming. The self-talk is telling myself that don't worry, I think session will go well. I think you will have a good time. So there's a self-talk because you're telling yourself that you have done enough. And I'm also a certified facilitator for Dale Carnegie presentation skills, and sometimes I do that program. And in the program, I tell people that tell two things that has gone well and one area of improvement. I can tell you that almost in every program, people even talk about two bad things, not one good thing, because we are wired for that. Which means the self-talk is also telling us that no, I'm not good. And you see your career. You would have done so many great things in your life, but no moment you ask to think about yourself, we always remember things that we have not done well. So self-talk is a ability to not kind of promote that other tendency, but promote the new tendency. And visualize yourself succeeding, which means that in this the same student, they did another exercise. They took them to this sunset point and they captured the chemical in the brain. And they brought the same group in a room and asked them to close their eyes and asked them to visualize that sunset point. The exact same chemical was generated, which means that you don't need a physical setup to generate the chemical. The moment you visualize yourself succeeding, you will get lots and lots of idea. And Srivastava, when you start visualizing succeeding with the numbers that you got last year, you will get many new ideas in the process. And clean up your sleep hygiene is basically, I was telling you that physiological is also important with EI compared to psychology, which means that you should have a good routine. You should have a schedule where you're recharging yourself, not like, so when I said you have a nice schedule, you should also include this built-in favor that, and I think I'll just take you through these 2 slides and then you can maybe write about this later. We have less time. Social awareness is a third part where you start now recognizing when you talk to people, when you interact with them, what are they going through? Yeah, you start knowing them, now the greeting with people by name. So if you notice, like from the beginning, I started calling Sarayu, Ananta, Srivasa. So it doesn't sound we're meeting for the first time. It sounds like we met before. So when you look at social awareness, when I go to a restaurant, I always ask the waiter's name first. The moment we are giving the order, rather than asking, doing this kind of gesture, that itself put the guy connected to you very beautifully. Watching body language, so you will know, knowing at people's facial expression, their walking style, what are they going through? Yeah, develop a back pocket question is like if somebody is, very quiet, they are not, speaking well. Can I have a question that will, kind of open them up? Yeah. Or in that Pandit case, his back pocket question was that mantra with the flower, for example. In the Reliance case, my back pocket was to get him diverted to, what he was doing. Yeah. This is all part of social awareness. Yeah. Connect with people who are speaking instead of looking at, these are like some very common, I think, very self-explanatory point that you can do that. The 9th point I want to also emphasize that when you now start looking at movies, start looking at whatever you have learned today and see how the movies are also driving some of those points. So like the Munna Bhai MBBS is a very beautiful movie on Jadoo Ki Chappi, which means when Sanjay Dutt is hugging the person who's cleaning the college, is actually nothing but creating oxytocin, endorphins in the other person's mind. So, and practice the art of listening is that when you start listening to people, you start knowing where are they coming from, what is the background, why are they thinking that way, and that makes you a very, very powerful leader. And the last part is about relationship building, which is the last I think point, and I think most of it is very self-explanatory. I just want to like bring out this 6th point, which is have an open door policy wherein people can come and speak to you. So at Wipro, I used to keep my door literally open from 12:30 to 1 o'clock, 30 minutes. Anybody can come, and I used to put the stopper there so we can come. And today, I have my Zoom open many times for the team to come and talk to me if they want. So that also helps in relationship building where people can come out and share whatever they want. Last is when you make any decision, just don't make them, but explain the rationale behind that, and at times I had to make some very strong decisions, but I always tell the person whom I am making the decision for, if I have to let somebody go or if I have to break a contract, what is the rationale behind that? Because you're talking about relationship building using all that you have learned in EI to essentially get people to experience a new way of thinking, new way of doing. And last slide is about the spiritual connect, and I just use that acronym spiritual here, where I think with whatever we have learned, we are knowing self very nicely. We are leaving the baggage of the past. So Gita no longer carries the baggage of that 8-year experience of the school. Yeah. Introspection is how am I progressing? Because when Srivastava said that this year will I be able to, will I get drained out? So how am I progressing is looking at the introspection, that what possibly is still of the past that I am carrying, and the relationship with as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, as a neighbor. How am I managing my emotions? Yeah, and you can see while we have got a lot of these high-rise building, a lot of these comforts, but in general, I mean, sometimes I experiment this, and when I go for a walk, I tell somebody good morning, and sometimes they get very surprised that how people are thinking. Like in some places, they have become so serious that they don't even say good morning sometimes, and then suddenly they get surprised. Why are you suddenly saying good morning? Because it is something that we have not built as a neighbor. So you can try that, and a lot of insights will come for yourself. You don't need to essentially look at any other outsider. There's so much inside us, and if you do your regular introspection, you'll get a lot of insights. And I think you over a period of time become live life with totality, which means you're no different when you're with your children's, when with your colleagues, when you're with your neighbors, you're like same. You're looking at very similar experience. And at sometimes when I give you the example of this child, 6 months who is in Africa, Germany, Mysore, Bangalore, Hyderabad, the same is that you then start realizing that EI is so universal, and when you meet different cultures, you start really knowing, why the Amritsar guy is so different than Hyderabadi guy. Yeah, so you're not upset with anybody's riding rashly because you say that's the environment, and then you essentially lead a very active life, because you now know what is putting me down, what makes me down. You're not really letting that down feeling for too long because you know how to build the enthusiasm in life. And finally, I think, what is the legacy that I want to leave this world with? When I go back to the other part of the world, what am I going to leave the legacy with? That's the last point. So this is also a very nice way to bring EI in spirituality. Yeah. So I think this was my last slide, and I'll stop the screen here and keep like 5-10 minutes for any open conversation, anything that you want to ask on today's session.
Wonderful session, Yogesh.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah,
Now
very,
we can
very
make-
nice.
Very nice
practical.
session.
Now we can make people spiritual, and they can really appreciate that we are talking something different, not just telling them.
Yes, bilkul, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yogesh, more like I have a question. I don't know if time will permit, but you can probably respond offline.
Please. Yeah.
I have someone who has been sort of asking me, a leader who loses sort of emotional control, right? Like you said, crying in movies is probably okay, but may not be okay. If you're a leader, you also need to speak, right? So, and you see a situation where you end up, eyes start welling, and it's okay. It can happen occasionally, but if it happens frequently, they feel that they don't know how to control their emotions.
Yes.
What would be
Anand, I have got we do a lot of coaching to such leaders, and I think there are some deep-rooted formative experiences that we want to just somehow make them aware of that and process that. These are all because unprocessed emotions, unprocessed limbic system experiences that we want to get over that. And like in many cases, like in this lady who was unwanted, extremely successful woman entrepreneur, but constantly dealing with headache for almost 15 years. We got that out in like 5 minutes, meaning the transformation was 5 minutes. It took a month to get to that third child discovery. So if you're okay, you can tell. We can work with this person, and almost I can guarantee. I've seen so many cases getting changed. So nowadays I give confident answer that will change him.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. And we should help. While there is a commercial, organization we run, but we really don't bring in commercial. In many cases, we just done coaching, just if they have any help,
Okay, sure. Yeah.
We don't. That's the way we have been running in this, and we don't really get. So please feel free to pass on any such problems that people are facing, and more than glad. And we have got a very good pool of people who are very like-minded us, and we can help. Absolutely, we can help.
Okay.
Okay. Does journaling help?
Oh yes, definitely. That is like one practice that you come to my. I was just showing you a couple of people. There's so many. Like you can just see the number of things I've written on the camera. You can see.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and don't worry about whether you will, what time you will go and look at all the journals, but the documentation is the treasure that is there for your transformation. Yeah.
So many a times, the people have told me, like what you have said, there are some latency of your childhood where it may be happy or whatever it is sad.
Yes.
I've tried many a times to start journaling. So people said, okay, can you bring out something which you have felt sad? and I have simply given up because I have never felt sad is what I have always been. I am sure that is not reality.
Yeah.
But so I mean, how do I really bring out which is
No,
latent?
so, but Nanda, I would not agree. Maybe your childhood has been like this, so it is absolutely okay to not have that sadness. In fact, that's why when I started the first question, I did not make that any point compulsory. I didn't say pata karo, because it's absolutely okay. I mean, it's great if you've not had that experience.
I won't call. I mean, sure there could have been situation, but somehow I've not been able to pull it out. Like,
So you have processed it even before knowing the framework. You have processed it yourself. So before we end, just one last story that I want to leave you with. So there is this very nice spiritual guru in California. His name is Baba Hari, and Baba Hari is someone who only does consultation for like 2 hours in the morning, and he charges like at that time $150 per hour. At 25 years ago, very huge cost. So many times, when people come and they sit in the reception and they have to pay first before you get into the room. So the reception will say that today Baba's time is over, so he cannot meet you. If you want to meet, you can come tomorrow. So people get very upset. I came all the way from 30 kilometers, and now you're telling he's not going to meet me. So they say you take your money back if you want, but Baba cannot meet. No, I don't want my money back. I want to meet him. So, but Baba cannot meet now. So people go and they come next day. And as they enter Baba's room, they're very angry with So Baba tells them that, tell me what is your problem. So they say that yesterday evening I got the solution to whatever I had the problem. And Baba says that I know that. And that's by design that I don't meet a lot of people because you all have your own answers. And then he became so famous that people would go there, they'll pay $150, not meet Baba, find the solution. And why am I bringing this story is, if I have not given any answer to you, I am like Baba Hari right now without any charge.
So Baba Hari, so you pay $150 anyways, you will get the answer today evening if you want an answer.
Yeah. So this is a very beautiful story. I love that. It's a very beautiful real life story. It's not
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So all of you have got your own answers, but only thing is you have to practice this. So I've shared the PG with you. I'll share the deck with you. Make it a point to share with as many people. At least all your team members should know right side processing, left side processing, automatic story, and amygdala. These 3 concepts everybody should know. And your team should tell you that, hey, why are you going on left side here? Come on right side. Yeah, automatic story about that. Maybe it's busy. He'll pick up the phone, try him tomorrow. Yeah. And see the productivity, see the increase in business, see the enthusiasm in the team. Just like you don't have to run after anybody. Everybody's running on their own. Yeah. So good. So thank you so much. We are at 1 o'clock. I think we promised to close at 1 o'clock. So thank you so much, everybody. And I look forward to being in touch with all of you. I'm also a Roots group. And once again, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Wonderful.
Very nice, interesting session.
We had a good time, I think. Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.